Okay, this one's working. This one working. Yes, both of them working. All right, we got it. We got it. There we go. All right, we did it. We did it. We got through the desert in one piece. All right. That was a lot more complicated than it had to be. I'm gonna be honest with you. All right. Trying to see a good spot for the vertical. Let's turn on the lights. All right. We ready? Excuse me. Probably gonna have to lower the gameplay on my earphones down this loud.
Twenty 2026 is here, and as you know, that means the game dam is about to come down, as if it was ever up in the first place. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the top 10 new games of the first half of 2026. Starting off with one that is going to launch very soon. And number 10 is Code Vein 2. We've said this a lot of times. Code Vein is anime Dark Souls. Looks like Code Vein 2 is bigger anime Dark Souls. And if you're one of those people that gets stuck on character creators and you're a Dark Souls fan and an anime fan, it's basically like your entire month right here. I don't know why people are so down on Code Vein. I mean, yes, some of the character designs are difficult to take seriously in a post-apocalyptic Souls-like game. I get it. It's not the best Souls-like combat you've ever played, at least the first one anyway. I don't know. It's probably improved at least somewhat in the second one. But Code Vein has got a cool story, a cool world, and if you're looking for a good time, the first one's like $8 on Steam right now. It's a big price cut, most likely to cause some hype for this one. And it's working, at least on me. Code Vein 2 is landing on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series January 30th. I'm going to have to act a vampire here, or at least vampiric, for a moment and ask for your subscription. Believe it or not, most of you are not subscribed. It's important we ask. It's a big solid that you're doing us, and we hope it helps you find some stuff you want to see. Thank you so much for clicking the subscribe button. Let's get back to the video. At number 9, if Souls-likes are your thing, but the proportions of anime women isn't, Nioh 3.
I'm really tired.
Honestly,
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little bit tired of Souls-like games, especially the crushing difficulty part of Souls-like games. I'm like really tired of it.
could technically play both games and it would be fine, but whatever. Nioh is a fantastic Souls-like series. If the gameplay of Code Vein isn't enough for you, Nioh might be the area to go because they really have a good thing going as far as that. Team Ninja has really kind of mastered the formula. They even have a subset of Nioh-likes that has happened. They're all Souls-likes, but you know. This one has two distinct playstyles, Ninja and Samurai. And if you're particularly excited for this one, a demo is landing a day before Code Vein 2 on January 29th on PC and I think PS5. As far as consoles, the game is a PS5 exclusive, but it is also coming to PC, and it's landing on both those platforms February 5th. At number 8, it's Pragmata, what kind of looks like Dead Space meets Mega Man meets Devil May Cry-ish. This is a tough one to categorize because Capcom has been pretty tight-lipped about it, honestly, and that makes it a bit of an enigma. It's one of the most intriguing releases of early 2026 purely because Capcom clearly thinks it's worth finishing properly, despite the fact people have no friggin' idea what this game actually...
Pragmata is one of those games where I'm like, this can go either way. This can be like the next Death Stranding, where it's like a weird game that that people like, and it can honestly go either way. And I can see it either being really good or really bad. I know that's like the only two options that can happen, but for this title, you really don't know. You really don't know if it's gonna be a good game or not. There we go. My OBS is pissing me off. Okay.
Is. I mean, we've seen some of the fighting in it. It looks cool. There's also some hacking mechanics, and I don't know, you're a guy in a Dead Spacey type suit, which you need to breathe, but apparently this little girl who can shoot stuff doesn't. It's a very strange looking game, but it is also a very cool looking game, which it makes sense that we're interested in it at the very least. There is a demo that lets you try out the combat system, and again, it's cool, but it doesn't necessarily make it clear what the game is, which is fine. I want to be surprised if it's good. Pragmata is landing on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on April 24th. And number 7, it's High on Life 2. Yes, that High on Life is getting a sequel. Whatever you think of Justin Roiland, whether you think he did or didn't do anything, I think what's happening here is actually good because they're kind of attempting to prove that this game has a life beyond a single voice actor. I think that's actually good. That's something that you should want to do, even if you still have that voice actor, which they don't. He left in 2023 amidst controversy. I'm not here to weigh in on that. I'm here to weigh in on the game itself. I liked the first one. I can understand.
Not gonna lie, a lot of the first one was like, don't get me wrong, Justin Roiland hasn't really done anything for Rick and Morty since like season 2. Apparently was kind of phoning it in for the last like 4 or 5 seasons that he was there because he really didn't agree where the show was going. He didn't like the story content that was being put in the game. And I don't know. But yeah, so like he was a big distraction more than he was help after like season 2 of Rick and Morty.
Why some people might not love it. I thought it was decently funny, sometimes a little bit over the line as far as annoying for me, but that's fine. It was a pretty big swing, and as far as I'm concerned, the ball connected with the bat. I'm quite interested to see what happens.
I don't know
with
if it
High
is
Life
or not.
2. It's landing on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC February 13th. At number 6, it's Saros, the new sci-fi action title from Housemarque, the studio behind Returnal. It does look very much to be the next Returnal type game from the developer, which, good. In all seriousness, Returnal is just one hell of a fun game. I love Returnal.
I loved Returnal. I just didn't like its stupid roguelike mechanics where it had no checkpoints. I know what a lot of people are going to say, well, you don't like roguelikes, and yeah. And that's the problem with... That was the problem, in my opinion, with Returnal, is that the game was literally... It could have literally been a mainstream game if it weren't for the fact that it was a roguelike. And the reason being is because... the game sold like maybe like 2 million copies, 4 million copies, and most people didn't get past the first level. That doesn't really give people the incentive to tell other people to buy it. And so like the roguelike mechanics, in my opinion, was just without checkpoints, and like do what heavy Chance of Rain does, is where they give you a choice of whether or not you want that kind of like thing in the game where you don't have any checkpoints or anything like that, or if you want the game to be brutally hard. I think that's one thing that Saros needs to fix that wasn't in the first game, because yeah, I think that it can be a really big hit if it does figure out that balance like the way Chance of Rain did.
I love the progression, and I love the ideas, and according to everybody involved, that's exactly what they're working on to improve. And, well, hell yes. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than, of course I want to play the next Housemarque game, because it's another Returnal style game that promises to be bigger and better. Why would I not want to play that? Saros is coming to PS5 on April 30th. Moving on to number 5, it's Reanimal. This one comes to us from the same people who made the Little Nightmares games, the first 2 Little Nightmares games. It definitely looks like advanced Little Nightmares. It's about a brother and sister escaping a version of their home that's some kind of nightmare version. The Tarsier team considers Reanimal to be the spiritual successor. So, I mean, I think you know what you're getting here. They have said they're trying to make it scarier than Little Nightmares. Like, it's much more of a straightforward, scary game rather than just a mood game. Not that Little Nightmares has no scary stuff in it. There aren't a whole lot of games that you can hear the developers say the direct influences for the game are It Takes Two, Legend of Zelda, Wind Waker, and and Silent Hill 2. But that's what they've been saying about this one, and to be frank, it makes sense when you're looking at the footage. It's cool too because it's kind of got Sonic and Tails style co-op, drop-in co-op, a little more advanced than Sonic 2's pick up a controller and play, but it does have that. I don't know, if you need something a little scarier than Hearts during February, this is where to go. Reanimal's landing on PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC February 13th. And number 4 is Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, a sort of Lego meets Arkham meets every era of Batman ever. I mean, there is so much stuff here that I can identify from different Batman eras, from different mediums. They held nothing back, and I really think that's cool. Jake actually got a chance to play this game. I think he posted a video on his channel about what it's like.
Well,
he kind of says it's Arkham Light. It's not quite as tight in terms of the controls, which is kind of expected. I mean, it's a Lego game. It's not an uber serious dark Batman game. So you do get the Lego humor, the puzzle platforming, that kind of stuff, but you're also getting the Arkham-style combat, albeit a little bit simpler, and an open world. So everything looks pretty cool to me. The only thing I'm not super hyped about is they got a guy doing an impression of Will Arnett, and not much of one, rather than getting Will Arnett.
Look, I'm sorry, but Lego Batman is BoJack Horseman to me.
Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight comes to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC on May 29th.
That's kind of sad.
Moving on to number 3, we've got Crimson Desert, the game that spent years confusing everybody by looking and sounding like an MMO, but not being an MMO. In fact, being a single-player game that looks ultimately like The Witcher once you actually see it in action. You play as Macduff, a mercenary leader in the land of Pywell. You deal with war, you deal with politics, you deal with monsters. Again, it's sounding very Witcher-like, except maybe a little more fluid. Like, a lot of the stuff we've seen maybe looks closer to Assassin's Creed.
I'm not gonna lie, one of the things that I didn't like about The Witcher, and I have bad luck with that game because I've been trying to play it since like the second one, but either I lose a disc, the disc breaks on me. I literally have The Witcher 3. I bought it when it came out, and the disc just doesn't work for me. So, but one thing I didn't like when I did play it briefly before the disc broke was the fact that the gameplay was ass to me. I didn't like the gameplay on The Witcher. The fighting mechanics are complete and utter ass in my opinion compared. And I think the reason why, and for me it was like a bad choice, I had just played Bloodborne. Bloodborne came out around the same time, and I was just playing it at the same time, and the mechanics just made The Witcher's mechanics feel like ass. I was like, oh man, this is bad in comparison. It just felt clunky, you know what I mean? It just didn't feel good.
Than The Witcher, which is fine because Assassin's Creed's combat is quite a bit better than The Witcher. Nothing against The Witcher. I like the weird combat, but I also like smooth combat. I don't know. There's really a crazy engine behind this game. Pearl Abyss has been really sort of unhingedly working on making this a crazy game. And to be frank, this looks so crazy, I don't really know what the final thing is going to be. But I am excited for what is shaping up to be a prestige single-player epic, rather than some stupid live service bullshit. Crimson Desert is coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC March 19th. Moving on to number 2, the long-awaited 007 First Light, IO Interactive's stab at 007. To be frank, I am pretty excited by this game. It is not a remake. It is not a licensed film tie-in. It is a new James Bond video game franchise made by the Hitman people, which is, I mean, words I would love to hear 10 years ago, even. Forget the whole recent Hitman trilogy. Like, go back.
Oh, wait, this 007's being made by the same people who made Hitman? Okay.
Before that, I would have been psyched there, but they...
At first, you had my attention. At first, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Have only gotten better over time, and this is a 007 game. In fact, a game that they look like they're attempting to make a little more cinematic than Hitman. I'm guessing there probably is going to be some of that social stealth as they call it, but also a lot of cinematic, pre-planned story stuff. It is a very early in the career of 007 James Bond, which I like. It's an origin story. I can't recall a decent movie or particularly video game that's fully an origin story. I mean, you could say Casino Royale is kind of an origin story, but this looks like it's going quite a bit earlier in Mr. Bond's life. I'm excited. 007 First Light is coming to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC May 27th. And finally, at number 1, we've got Resident Evil Requiem, the newest Resident Evil game. Frankly, a Resident Evil game that looks quite interesting in that it takes place in Raccoon City years after a nuclear explosion was detonated to attempt to, fix the Raccoon City problem. If you know Resident Evil, you know the Raccoon City problem. Zombies, just to say the most obvious thing I've ever said in my life. It's zombies. Anyway, they've actually given us a dual protagonist situation, which I don't think we've gotten that in the way that we're getting it since the early Resident Evils. And then, of course, the Resident Evil remakes. They haven't let a lot slip about this, but everything that we've seen looks freaking cool. I am super excited for this game. Resident Evil Requiem is landing PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, and PC. It's landing on all of them February 27th. I do have some bonus games for you here, too. First, Bungie's resurrecting Marathon as a PvP extraction shooter, and that's either going to be great or it's going to be what it looks like, which is not great. I'm sorry, I'm not going to say that it looks great, but we are going to talk a hell of a lot about it this year. I have a feeling. I mean, I will say, I hope it's good. If it turns out to be good, I'll be very pleasantly surprised, and I will not be upset, but I will also be very, very shocked. Marathon's coming to PS5, Xbox Series, and PC in March. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake is supposedly coming this month. We're allegedly getting a Obsidian remake style drop without any warning. Leaks have indicated this. We don't know if this is real or not. We do know the lips have been tight with this one. I'm excited. I want to play this game again. It's coming to the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, and PC sometime very, very soon, supposedly. Next is John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, a co-op shooter that is loud and messy and possibly pretty good. I don't know, there's lots of 80s synth. John Carpenter's name is on it. I have to assume that is a good thing because John Carpenter is a gamer.
In this, I know that John Carpenter is a gamer and he loves video games. He's even a fan of the Metal Gear series. But the fact that his name on it in this industry doesn't give me any hope that it's going to be good.
Gamer. He's also a picky and thorny guy. Toxic Commando's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series on March 12th. Next, Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly, the remake. Probably one of the most disturbing horror games ever made. Also, the one where you're armed with a camera. I mean, this game was scary as hell back when I think it was a Wii game. Yeah, these were Wii games. They were scary as hell on the frickin' Wii. Forget
I didn't see the hack. What happened there?
PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch 2 and PC, where it's landing on March 12th. It'll probably be pretty scary there. Next is Diablo 4 Lord of Hatred, a full expansion centered on Mephisto, which means your loot addiction gets that, in case that's something you want. I don't know if people have moved on to other games for loot, but Diablo 4 is dropping that expansion for the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC on April.
All right, let's move to the next video.
Hello and welcome back to the Digital Foundry Graphics of the Year Awards. It's 2025 and not as much happened this year, but there's still some very beautiful, incredible looking games to discuss. And of course, as with the last time, I'm joined by two of my favorite colleagues in the whole world.
Holy
First,
shit!
Alex Battaglia.
Every single one? How does... First of all, oh my god. How do you not have... Like, every game company, like PlayStation, has, like, a whole, like, database, like, on lockdown of every single game that they've ever had made, and their source code lockdown is, like, in a certain area backed up. How Does Ubisoft not have something like that and then have it protected? That's just insane. Why Ubisoft? Why?
Yes, kind of slower game this year. Not a lot of stuff coming out, but so it goes.
And Oliver Mackenzie.
Yes, a slightly slower year in terms of high-profile, graphically stunning game releases, but still a strong year nonetheless.
This video is brought to you by Digital Foundry and CyberPower PC. Click on the link below to access Christmas savings on a number of Corsair Infinity gaming PCs, starting with the Infinity C5 pairing a Ryzen 5 8400.
I have no idea how Ubisoft is still alive. Well, I do know how. Ubisoft begged the gamers back in the day to not get bought out by this company, and gamers backed them up and started buying their products because they started being really good and started like listening to the fans. And now they're doing the exact opposite of that, and they're like surprised Pikachu face that nothing's working. So it's like, my brother in Christ, like, what do you want from us?
F with a Radeon 9060 XT and 32 gigs of RAM. The Infinity C6 ups specs to the Ryzen 7 9800X3D, the fastest CPU for gamers, along with the impressive Radeon RX 9070 XT. The Infinity C7 ramps up the specs still further with the monstrous GeForce RTX 5090 and WD Black SSD. All three offerings ship with a free game. A world-leading PC manufacturer with a 4.7-star Trustpilot rating, CyberPower PC is an official launch partner for PC component brands like Nvidia, AMD, and Intel, with over 20 years of custom more.
Just for you today, we have some honorable mentions that we wanted to share. Honorable mentions being those that didn't quite make the top 10, but they're still interesting enough visually that they warrant sort of a mention on this list, right? So the first one we're gonna
That's
start
some
with
cold
here,
ass
and I
shit,
believe
but
Oliver, you actually included
that's what you
these,
get.
Mario Kart World and Kirby, but which Kirby?
Oh, which Kirby? I guess
I
that was
wanna-
a bit ambiguous. Kirby Air Riders.
Yes,
Kirby Air
with the new
Riders.
engine.
With the new Soul Avis engine? Avi's engine?
yeah, exactly.
I messed it up. Yeah. Very interesting new engine from Bandai Namco. Next generation engine for next generation games, open world games, all kinds of things. But it's getting an unusual showcase in Kirby Air Riders, which is kind of this quasi-racing, quasi-party, quasi-minigame collection kind of odd little smorgasbord of a game. Very fun, though. It is quite enjoyable, I would say, and I think John enjoyed it quite a bit as well.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting visually beyond the engine choice. It has cool, very explosive particle effects. It has great camera work. It has great-looking environmental art. Decent image quality for a Switch 2 game. Obviously, you can't expect everything in this world, but it has decent image quality, and it has good performance, 60 FPS, minus City Trial, minus split screen. Although in split screen, they still try to valiantly stick to 60 FPS, even though they do fall beneath that target quite frequently. Plus lots of different gameplay modes with different kinds of camera perspectives and things like this. You know, they're showing you off a lot of different angles in the game. Also lots of characters and bikes and interesting designs, things like this. One caveat, big caveat, Sean pointed it out in our shared review of the game, is that HDR is kind of poorly thought out. I don't think most players will like it very much, but everything else is good to great, I would say, in Kirby Air Riders.
I would agree. It's a very smooth, nice looking game.
Motherfuck.
And the same goes for Mario Kart World, right? Which is the first time they sort of adapted that formula to a larger space. And I do like the way in which they've connected everything
How is
together.
it?
with
Okay,
the
there we
sense of
go.
scale. You
Finally.
get those giant structures sort of off in the distance as you approach. It feels very, very cool.
Yeah,
It's
there's a
not pushing
3D
any
Kirby game. It was really
boundaries,
good.
but they did implement some nice things. I love their solutions.
Okay, I
with
need to get
reflections,
inside before I
how
freeze
they
my
sort
butt
of,
off.
like update. I guess it's like a cube map, if I recall, that's like a dynamically updated for the water surface rather than just leaning on like say SSR or something. So it actually looks pretty okay while remaining performant, which is key. But I guess that's kind of, they're on the honorable mention list.
Gonna
Good
freeze
looking
your
games,
ass off
but
again.
not super mind blowing either.
I'd also say Mario Kart World has one
No
of my
way is that game
favorite
worth $80
kind of
though.
compromises in video games this year, which is that obviously when the game was previewed, it's like, oh, here's an open world Mario game with a changing time of day, right?
Right.
Which it obviously normally implies a lot of things about a game's lighting and its simulation and all these different things and volumetric clouds and all these crazy things. That's the conventional way to approach it. But here they just swap between 4 different lighting bakes and sun positions, which don't even correspond to the shadows necessarily, the real-time shadows, which is amusing, but it actually works and it's performant and it looks surprisingly good. You just have to kind of not look at the sun too closely when it's transitioning between those.
It's the Xenoblade approach, right? Like they do the
True.
same
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
in Xenoblade
yeah.
games, and it
Yeah.
makes sense. It's fine. I think it works. But we're not done with Switch 2 on this list. We've got Switch 2 ports, essentially fixing old games, and this is a number of games, right? Super Mario Odyssey, of course, the Zelda games, well, most of them, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, as well as Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening Remake. All of these received major boosts on Switch 2. Also Kirby from the Forgotten Land, which essentially it pushes the frame rates up to 60 in cases where they weren't, massively offers an experience that just feels a lot more refined and like closer to what you would have wanted in the first place. And so nothing revelatory, but I think they're awesome. They did a really nice job on them. I believe these are the ones that Panic Button mostly worked on.
Panic Button worked on 4 of them.
Right.
4 of them. I think it was Mario Odyssey,
Some good goop.
Super Mario Brothers U, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, and ARMS, which we actually did not take a look at. That's another game that they did cover. A lot of Panic Button conversions in the mix, a lot of Switch 2 editions in the mix, and in general, we're seeing from those efforts quadrupled resolutions on Switch 2, much more stable frame rates on Switch 2, as in the case of Echoes of Wisdom and Link's Awakening, right? Much better frame rates. Double frame rates in some instances, like in Splatoon 3, where you go from 30 FPS to 60 FPS in the city area. Just really strong results across the board in all those titles. I was really happy with the way they converted and the way they
I'm gonna skip
really
this
demonstrated
part.
the
I
value of
don't
Switch
care
to
about
even
the
people
Switch.
who did not necessarily go out and buy
That I found very compelling. And they do this through a very, shall I say, expert use of effects to create a virtual, very analog looking camera system. So people complain about things like chromatic aberration, raised blacks, the blurring filters and various other things. But it actually is essential here. It's similar in a way to Alien Isolation all those years ago, where they use it very specifically to craft this environment. And that combines then with the environment itself, which is comprised of these very detailed, physically accurate textures that, again, similar to Alien Isolation, which is an old game at this point, but in my mind, like, it's still just a stunning looking game. One of the best that's ever created, that's ever delivered a sort of sci-fi environment, right? So, Alex, then, we also discovered this is an Unreal Engine 5 game. It is multi-platform, but only just. It actually is on Xbox as well as PC right now. And I think, technically speaking, they did a good job here creating something that it's not perfect in terms of those issues, but it sort of dodges some of the usual UE5 stuff, probably just due to its smaller scope.
Looking at it right here, I've been following some footage. Also, John's got some shots occasionally. We've got a game that I think probably is one of the better usages of Unreal Engine 5. I actually really dig the art style and the usage of lighting and shadow. It
No.
isn't just fully
Not a
like,
dude. It's my
only
friend.
using like Lumen and then keying that into its art. It's adding all these other things like the
Was
camera
the game
system on
louder than
top,
the
which,
than the
take
than
it
the
or leave
video?
it actually is pretty much defining the game's aesthetic at some point with that like kind of FOV that is a bit crunched and warped at the edges, and even also sometimes the helmet it looks like on your character. I don't know what your character is. Is this a robot, John? Or like
When you
you're wearing a
run,
helmet?
you get that visor kind of
Yeah.
helmet that you're wearing.
I really dig that in games, actually. I love seeing your helmet in games. That's kind of why have a soft spot for Halo 4, and also Metroid. Maybe that will be on this list, who knows? And yeah, it's just a great looking game. It really does remind me of Alien Isolation, which is probably one of the best looking games ever made. So, bravo to the team here.
I also you interact with the computer terminals throughout the game, right? And they've recreated sort of this like interactive mouse-driven interface that really feels like early '80s Macintosh, like early Mac OS, monochromatic and everything, which I really like.
Don't mind
I
if
also
I
love
do.
your like multi-tool gun thing that you have. Has its own little screen on the back, which one, it updates at a very low frame rate intentionally, so it really looks like you're looking through some sort of device that's struggling to process the scene.
Gotcha.
But it also has all these little interactive buttons.
I'll make sure to
and
fix that
things
right
you
now
can
after I
manipulate on the device
collect all
itself,
this loot.
including a degauss button, which is just awesome in my book. So yeah, cool little game. Do recommend checking out. Not a super long one, but it's a very cool experience and a very unique.
Damn,
looking
is there
one.
no? Okay,
So
there we go.
That's why it is on.
I was about to say, is there no goddamn?
Next up, and this is almost has a couple purposes. One, I think this is a beautiful looking game, but two, it also speaks to what we strive for on this list is, and with Digital Foundry in general, people sometimes say, "Wait, you praised a Switch game, but I know that Switch 2 is not cutting edge. How could you?" And
Yeah.
it's because when we judge the visuals of a game, we do very importantly take the hardware into consideration.
I think I got everything.
Because if not,
Before I get
like,
frostbite.
it just changes the whole scale of like judging anything, right? Like it's just because hardware limitations often breed creativity, and the way in which hardware is exploited, I think, creates some very interesting results. Which is why I decided to put Eartheon on this list. Now you may be saying, "Wait a second here. That's just like a little pixel arty looking shooter." Yes, but it's a game that was created from the ground up for the Mega Drive console. So it was created for
What's
a
up, John? How you
1980s
doing?
console, if you will, a 16-bit machine. And when you look at what they've achieved here versus, say, the entire library of the system, like you can actually really appreciate all these years of work and like learning that's gone into like being able to use the hardware, as well as just general experiences beyond what was possible back in the early 90s, like just development standards. So this was actually the creation from Ancient, which is in fact an ancient company going back to the 90s. So primarily this was done by two people. So Yuzo Koshiro, who's been around since the old days of the Mega Drive, still making awesome music and designs, and Wada-san, his partner, who did most of the programming and all this, and really managed to extract
Just
a
watching
lot
some
out of
videos.
the Mega
I think I'm
Drive.
gonna
So I
skip
don't know
this
if
one,
you
this
guys
is
have played.
boring.
Today, we're diving into the
There we go.
worst Pokemon introduced in each generation, as a sort of catharsis for all that Game Freaks put us through. And of course,
Oh,
we're
shit,
sticking
what
with
the fuck's
final
up?
stage Pokemon. So our choices are those that are really so bad that they just have no usage or viability whatsoever, no matter what you try to do and where you try to do it. Of course, there's usually more than one Pokemon that could be considered for this kind of thing, so we're including 2 additional contenders for each generation. Now, without further ado, let's kick things off, or punch things off rather, with Hitmonchan in Gen 1. Hitmonchan is the worst fighting type in the generation where fighting is the worst type in the game. This is not the end all be all, of course, but it's a heck of a solid start. That said, its competition is stiff, in the form of those famously flawed early game bugs, Butterfree and Beedrill. Themselves no
Ow.
slouches in the department of bad,
hurt
exploitable
myself.
typing, and appalling poor stats, leading them unable to leave any sort of impact on the game. Hitmonchan's got base 105 attack, which is actually quite good, and is faster than both of them, beating out Beedrill by 1 point. So how could it be Hitmonchan? Or just as valid as a question, how could it not be either of the bugs? Well, right off the bat, Butterfree has access to Sleep Powder, and Sleep is an especially powerful status in Gen 1, lasting as many as 6 turns and preventing the opponent from moving when they
Okay,
wake up.
good.
It's frighteningly close to a free KO, and with a perfectly workable base 70 speed stat, Butterfree will be able to get it off. It can also spread that other massively powerful status, Paralysis, through Stun Spore. This is enough to make up for the fact that it's not doing any real damage on its own, though at least it can pull off some psychic special drops. Okay, but is it not clearly Beedrill then? Well, Beedrill actually has the tools to potentially finish the game off against a very, very weakened team, mind you, but with Swords Dance boosted Hyper Beam at its disposal, and potentially even agility, it's got more to work with than Hitmonchan. It's also got much better stab because its Twin Needle, weak though it is, actually strikes the best type in the game, Psychic, for super effective damage. Hitmonchan's stab, on the other hand, thuds into said type, and pretty much everything else for that matter, even when hitting neutrally. Sure, it hits normal and rocks super effectively, but its stab move is the pathetic 80 base power, 80% accurate, 25% recoil-inducing submission. It's probably going to miss or have its recoil be more impactful in helping your opponent KO you way before it's going to leave any significant mark on the opponent's team, especially since it has no move pool to speak of. What really makes Hitmonchan dreadful though is that it is ridiculously frail. With base 50 HP and a whopping 35 special, it makes Beedrill look like Chansey in comparison. Hitmonchan gets rolled by every special attack in the game, and its comparatively enormous base 79 defense still isn't very good with that paltry HP stat. And as far as getting destroyed by everything and doing no damage to anything, Hitmonchan's the best. Now for the second generation pick with Ledion. This one's a no doubter, and that's especially impressive considering some of
I got some headphones, a shirt that headphones and a shirt that people sent me for my wish list. I got some shorts that I really needed because you never have too many shorts. And what else? Yeah, those pretty much. And I got myself a PC because I needed one, but I'll count that as a Christmas gift because
Gen 2's lovely newcomers, but none can compare to Ledion's almost impressively bereft array of nothingness. The one exception is Unknown, which is of course worse, but in our opinion, it doesn't even qualify as an actual Pokemon for the purposes of this list, seeing as it can't even learn 4 moves to fill its moveset with. So we're going with Ledion, which actually seems to hit the minimum threshold for having ostensibly been designed for actual competitive play. It can baton pass agility, and it has dual screen, so that's a pretty neat set, if not for the fact that Ledion's horrendous weakness-riddled typing goes along with the physical bulk lower than Apom's, and even its one genuinely good stat, base 110 special defense, is undercut by non-existent HP. Its base 85 speed is also quite good, but functionally useless, seeing as Ledion can't do anything to anything, all while getting thrashed by everything even more than Gen 1 Hitmonchan on account of all the extra weaknesses Ledion's got tacked onto its so-called bulk. The two also go together with their sharing of a base 35 stat. Too bad for Ledion, it gets a base 35 attack when it's known for using the move
well, I already had a
Punch,
PC.
and its move pool is rifled with punching moves, and it would even get Iron Fist as an ability in Gen 5 as some sort of cosmic mockery. Not that you have to get past Gen 2 for that, seeing as it lacks even the ability to pass Swords Dance that it would have in Gen 3 and on. That alone would have rocked it past Apom for worse than game status, but instead Apom's mono-normal stab, fighting weakness only Cursed Restock set, is chilling as pretty much Snorlax tier, next to Ledion's stunner of a do-nothing toolkit. Remind me again why Ledion didn't get a Mega? Then again, you could say that for most Pokemon on this list, such as the Gen 3 pick Delcatty. Now here we've got a close race again. Delcatty's greatest achievement may not have been competitive, but instead have been looking fierce in the 3D Pokemon game. While the confidence with which it shrugged off a hit may be inspiring, and may have fooled you into thinking it was a tough opponent when facing Pokemon Coliseum Cypher admin Venus, the reality is that Delcatty's only serving losses and not to its opponent. That said, the other contenders sure have a strong claim. At first glance, Dustox appears to be your typical early game bug, even worse than his cousin Beautifly, since the latter actually has a decent attacking stat and is immune to Earthquake and Spikes, qualities Dustox impressively lacks. You've also got Mightyena, which after the initial awe of seeing either Maxie or Archie lead off with it and intimidate you wears off, Mightyena feels like a not fully realized Pokemon whose final stage was left unfinished, thus leaving Mightyena out to dry. It doesn't have any good stats, even its best one, Attack, is quite low, and in Gen 3, it lacks physical stab being a Dark type. However, when you consider them against Delcatty, these two look like titans of competitive dominance.
Okay. I thought it was gonna be a little bit better. Got bored.
So I'm pretty sure many of you have already seen that Godzilla vs. Hulk death battle that dropped over the summer. However, there has been a lot of dishonest composite scaling throughout the years that has tried to convince people that Godzilla really has a chance in this debate, most particularly when discussing IDW's Godzilla in Hell and others outside of the Marvel and DC versions. Death Battle also had their own problems too, especially when it came to Marvel Godzilla not being recognized as being canon, even though Marvel re-released the issues that he was in originally, which is very impactful considering Marvel's iteration makes the fight against Hulk very competitive. And you'll also see how troubling it becomes for Godzilla when you actually stack in the composite attributes to Hulk, right? But that would only be fair if Godzilla is allowed to be composited in the first place, right? Now, in this video, I will deeply and extensively cover base and composite Earth
I'm a big Godzilla fan, but there's no way in hell that he's beating the Hulk.
616 Hulk alongside the higher aspects of Godzilla. But I also want to tackle the arguments people try to use for composite Godzilla and why some of its scaling is outright disingenuous. Along the way, I'll also cover other Marvel characters that help scale Hulk and Godzilla due to direct confrontations rather than just simply chain scaling. As you'll see in a lot of these Marvel and DC videos that I have coming up, a lot of these god tier characters will frequently battle each other or other large threats, so it is all one big web of consistency. For starters, I want to make it clear that the main reason Godzilla can even compete is through Godzilla Ultima, Marvel Godzilla, and DC Godzilla if you do think the heroes he was fighting were truly comparable to the Prime Earth versions. But first we'll be focusing on Godzilla Ultima and Godzilla in Hell, which, although it is an amazing concept with groundbreaking art that is interwoven into the philosophical aspects of what constitutes a being in itself, and how the largest victory in life isn't just to conquer your enemies and fears like Godzilla did whilst battling throughout all these layers of hell, but to truly win, you have to basically conquer yourself, most importantly. Aside from that strong iconography and narrative, within the power scaling sphere, on the other hand, this Godzilla has devolved into some horrible SCP mega conceptual headcanon creature due to like 99% of its quote-unquote evidence being largely unofficial and full of components that are not backed up by the source material, or other primary elements which, you know, actual competent scalers will use over third-party author statements that don't have any concrete foundation to begin with.
I know math is hard, but like if you're a broke boy, just say so.
Godzilla in Hell does have pretty dope feats even when you're just looking at it from the surface or narrative point of view and the inspiration behind them. No, there isn't any God Mountain wank scaling here, but there is a pretty good case to be made for Godzilla in Hell to being at least a higher dimensional conceptual entity that could not only counter his eternal nemesis, but also go beyond the dualities of life and death by eating the angels and their power, and he could also assimilate the power of entities that were meant to consume him to the point he was actually able to just straight up one-tap the tentacle monster at the top of the implied last layer of hell, which is one of several infinite or quote-unquote eternal realms that Godzilla went through, with even these earlier layers representing the conceptual evil and misfortunes throughout existence. And Godzilla was even able to destroy one of these hellish planes in his battle with Space Godzilla. And yeah, it might look like they were fighting on the normal universe, and that is, you know, that issue is showing how Godzilla got there in the first place, but it is actually revealed by the writers that Godzilla can't die in these crossovers, so that destruction, that's actually like a whole universe, basically. This transcendence is further explored by each realm being stated to be even darker than the last.
In my
so if you
bio,
want to
if
say
you
that
wanna know
Godzilla in Hell is on some
what the book had.
multiversal scale of power through what is showcased and stated within the comic itself, this is very fair, I would say, and is much stronger than when I had primarily read it several years ago. But I still hold to my assertion from back then that the headcanon metas surrounding Godzilla that scale into the hyperversal to high outerversal ranges is very tricky and not really concrete to practically use, especially because when you're scaling to abstract concepts or the purest, highest forms of emotion in existence, it is all relatively limited by what the constraints of the cosmology actually are. So even if we did say that Godzilla scales to the, you know, god tiers of that verse and is a conceptual entity, it is baseline far less impressive than the stuff that we see being stated for, you know, even like the substrate for the cosmic entities in Marvel, or like, you know, the bare minimum of that tier, say like the in-betweener, who can peer into all concepts and dualities at least to a very high extent within most of reality. Yet even a character that strong is still fodder to the cosmic entities higher on the pedestal, which, as you'll see later into the video, can help dictate Banner's strength because he actually scales to and far above most of them, whether you're talking about their avatars or even their true forms. In whichever case, even this multiversal or even complex multiversal scaling for Godzilla in Hell is generous and still fodder to Hulk by several infinite gaps, even pre-Immortal Hulk, way before, you know, he was revealed to basically being a cosmic linchpin that is tied to the one above all's counterpart and got amplified by several infinite magnitudes. Now, I was originally going to have the debunked portion of Godzilla in Hell here, but I thought it would just be better to cover the base interpretation of the character and just move on to the other versions, because that is what you guys are really here for. But if you are interested in how to really interpret its scaling, or honestly its fan wank scaling, I do have that section near the end of the video. But now, what does Godzilla have to offer outside of this hellish iteration? Well, Godzilla does have complex multiversal and even outerversal scaling through the IDW Godzilla vs. Power Rangers crossover, and of course, a Godzilla singular point novelization. I'll admit I'm not like a huge Power Rangers fan or a scaler, as I'm more of a Kamen Rider type of guy, so don't expect the most in-depth understanding and explanation here, but from what I've read within some of the comics, there are
somebody
realms
got
within the verse that are
nuked over
beyond
there.
time and space and reside well above the infinite multiverse, which itself has infinite universes. Within the crossovers, Godzilla was not only able to beat up the Power Rangers and their giant mechs, including the White Tiger Zord and the Dragon Zord, but he was also stated as being able to affect the multiversal focus and being the strongest foe the Power Rangers had ever faced before, which would logically include the iconic White Ranger, Lord Dracon, who was able to erase infinite timelines with the Heart of the Master. Although there are extra-dimensional layers within the Power Rangers cosmology, there is no indication that, there are infinite spatial dimensions within it, or that the morphing grid transcends the very concepts of dimensionality, which keeps it from being of a hyperversal or outerversal nature. But even if we were super generous and said that these realms were high hyperversal or even low outerversal, that is pretty cute, as you'll see later into the video. Either way, this version of Godzilla is mighty powerful compared to most of fiction, but when it comes to Marvel, it is likely getting gapped by a Father Celestial, or hyperdimensional demons and eldritch entities, even those that are far weaker than the real challenging ones that Doctor Strange has faced in the early days, such as Dormammu, Mephisto, and Shuma-Gorath, let alone the abstracts or other cosmic behemoths that Hulk scales to or that he outright defeated. Godzilla Ultima within the series is outright stated to be a higher dimensional being, but within the novel, they explain more in depth that the abstract entity is at the top of an infinite hierarchy, well beyond other monsters that can manifest on countless spatial dimensional levels, and it can even envelop an infinite system of dreams within dreams, making it at least high hyperversal, but likely well above the baseline outerversal ranges. Unfortunately for Godzilla, Hulk already had scaling on those levels, even pre-Immortal Hulk. To give some examples, Worldbreaker Hulk was able to destroy a planet in the Dark Dimension, which has infinite dimensions, is beyond mortal comprehension, and is infinitely beyond Asgard, which in itself is beyond space and time, and can even be argued to having infinite dimensional gulfs beyond the mortal universe, even within the classic times. Umar, Dormammu's sister, who could give Zom a good fight, whom in turn was so powerful that Eternity's Avatar and Dormammu had to actually fight him together, had even stated that Hulk was destroying her realm, and this is consistent given by how Hulk was able to slap around Nightmare, who rules over the Nightmare world, which
Pretty
is within
much.
Dreamtime, which itself has infinite realms for each pantheon or culture, and it is even above Limbo, which is already infinitely transcendent to the lower astral realms in the mortal universe, and it is connected to all of the infinite planes of space and time, which my team soloing Marvel Rivals main Magic rules over. It also gets even more insane when you realize how many layers in the astral realms there are, and that beings that fight on these levels are actually duking it out on levels beyond the
that's what I
physical.
get.
That is, with pure emotion, ideas, and narratives themselves. And even those realms are considered low tier to the many layers above it, which, again, Hulk scales to. Nightmare's realm being within the Dreamtime is even more insane when you realize that Amadeus Cho, one of the smartest beings in the multiverse, who can analyze infinite layers of the multiverse and can even analyze data and search through infinite multiverses, thought that the Dreamtime was too much to fathom and that it
sucked. I
was
lost a
outright
lot of
unsolvable or
equipment.
comprehensible
Well, not
through
really,
reason or
actually.
mathematics, and it was well beyond space and distance, and it is even similar in scope to the fiction realm and the astral plane, which is the mental realm where the famous X-Men members and villains have used to battle before. Hulk was also able to hold his own and even trick a Zom-possessed Strange fusion during the World War Hulk event, so it is consistent that he can deal with those hyperdimensional entities. Hulk also scales to or above current Nightmare, who is even stronger than he was in the classic times, and who recently was able to defeat slightly nerfed Beyonders, who literally killed the multiversal aspects of the Celestials, the Living Tribunal.
So how do you
Alright,
even
I'm gonna use the
describe
rest of my
Call of
quick, I'll be
Duty
right
as a
back.
franchise in 2025? Right? The brand, it's so omnipresent and seemingly eternal. It's been on a yearly release schedule since I believe 2005's original Call of Duty 2. So that's like 20 non-stop years of answering the call. If you're at all plugged into the mainstream games industry and you follow this news, then you know it's an unavoidable topic of discussion. And you know, the franchise's sales domination has been so really complete and thorough that it's hard to imagine a world where Call of Duty isn't #1. It's always on the game charts, right up there with the never-ending Grand Theft Auto 5. these games are also an anomaly in the industry. They're, Call of Duty's only dipping its toes in the live service model with the Warzone mode, but the games themselves have stubbornly stuck to that full price yearly release model, something that almost no other franchise has been able to accomplish outside of yearly sports game releases. But what's interesting about these games is that there is still some crossover with the hardcore gaming demographic. It's not something that the core gaming audience ignores. When a game like NBA 2K comes out and has like a bunch of predatory microtransactions and it's just a mess with bad game modes, lacking any innovation or new ideas, usually, the larger gaming community just kind of shrugs and doesn't care. But when a Call of Duty game is subpar, everyone stands up and takes notice. It's especially noticeable because otherwise, this is a series that used to be known for its quality, man. The early days, you had to be there before like the Call of Duty bros took over. Look, for at least a little while, the games were remarkably consistent given the yearly schedule, but in 2025, that consistency seems like it's out the window, and it might have been for a while. First, it was 2023's Modern Warfare 3, with its clearly half-baked campaign that just really felt slapped together with the multiplayer offerings that just kind of improved in Modern Warfare 2 but did little else, and its terrible and unnecessary zombies mode. I did the before you buy for this game, and it kind of bummed me out. Look, we've had Call of Duty games with issues before, but this was clearly a game born out of seemingly development or corporate dysfunction and corporate greed on Activision's part. There are rumors suggesting that what eventually became Modern Warfare 3 was originally designed as a paid expansion for Modern Warfare 2, like, DLC. But Activision bumped the game up to a full paid release and, tried to add more to it last minute and gave the developers less than a year to really slap together what they had to make this happen. That's not 100% confirmed that like it's all true. It's a lot of hearsay, but it does make perfect sense because that game really did feel stitched together. It was rough. It felt like it was cobbled together from disparate elements in a very desperate attempt to just get it out the door in some kind of complete state. They have to hit that yearly goal every year, no matter what. There was just a noticeable stink on that one. Now, Black Ops 6 has some problems, but was way more of a return to form for the series. It felt good, even if support mostly dried up around seasons 3 and 4 on the multiplayer, as focus shifted to, I guess, finalizing what will be Black Ops 7. But Black Ops 6 had a really decent campaign, at the very least, but the game's post-launch support left fans feeling more neglected. They were more focused on inserting as many crossovers and brand synergies as possible over actually making the game better. So the 1-2 punch of Modern Warfare 3 and the Black Ops multiplayer stuff made it so fan opinions on the series were already pretty low. And then Activision Blizzard got hit with the double whammy of an actually good Battlefield game releasing not too long ago with Battlefield 6, and something new and exciting with Arc Raiders. That's the environment that Call of Duty Black Ops 7 launched into, and if they had any hope of winning back fan support, then the game was gonna have to be more than just another number. It needed to be more, it needed to be better, and to actually address people's problems with how Black Ops 6 rolled out. It couldn't just be good enough with actual competition out there. This game couldn't just get by on goodwill anymore. So if you've been paying attention, Black Ops 7 launched on November 14th, and the reception hasn't really been great, at least in the hardcore crowd. If you just look at critical reviews, you might be led to believe that it's actually okay. The game's Metacritic is currently hovering around a respectable 83 from 18 review outlets, but the user scores and just like looking at message boards and social media, it paints a very different picture. Now, at the time of us making this video, the Metacritic...
I think one thing that Activision and Call of Duty leaned a little bit too much. Don't get me wrong, I liked the King Kong and Godzilla crossovers. I liked that they did some crossovers like that, but once they started getting super cartoony and super kind of please buy my shit little kids kind of movement with their skins online, it started to be really bad.
User score for the game is sitting at a score of 1.7 out of 10, which is even worse than 2023's Modern Warfare 3, which scored 0.5 higher at 2.3 out of 10. Is that an extreme number? Maybe to a point, but I still think it's
World for
worth
sale.
noting.
You have a great
In
day.
terms of sales, there are also signs pointing to the game underperforming. It's early. We don't know yet for sure. This is Call of Duty, so it's inevitably still going to sell well, regardless of perceived quality. It's something we've seen time and time again. When everyone is hating on a game, but then it's revealed that it inexplicably broke all series sales records anyway. That's happened before, and honestly, there are so many people out there that don't read articles. They don't look at video game memes. They don't listen to people like us talking on the internet. They just see a new Call of Duty on the shelf, they buy them every year, and they go in. The Call of Duty train seems to just kind of roll on regardless of, players like us complaining, but that might not actually be the case as much this time around. We're not saying that the game is set to be some kind of massive sales failure because we're just not at that point yet. It's too early to call any of these numbers definitive. And you always have to take into account that the game is now a day one Game Pass game. So pure sales figures aren't the only metric this series is graded on anymore. So just take all these facts and figures we managed to dig up with a grain of salt. There's a lot of signs that Black Ops 7 may actually be underperforming for the series again, but we just don't have all the facts yet to make a definitive statement one way or another. Take, for example, the Steam concurrent players. This is one of those things that gets dismissed the quickest when it comes to these conversations. I get it, but there is something interesting there. What we've seen is that Black Ops 7's all-time peak player count on Steam so far is 100,332, which sounds low for a massively popular series, but keep in mind that these games have never had a huge presence on Steam. What's telling is if you compare that number to the highest concurrent player counts of Black Ops 6, which got up to around 315,000, which means that the amount of people playing this year is almost 2/3 less than last year on Steam. Both games were free on Game Pass at that point, so that didn't change anything. So it appears to be that player interest in the game may just be lower in general. On consoles, the situation appears more like what you'd expect. Black Ops 7 is the highest grossing game on the PlayStation Store, as you'd expect, of course, but if you check the Microsoft Store, then things get a little more interesting. If you sort by top paid games, then Black Ops 7 isn't the #1 selling game. It's not the second or the third or the fourth or even the 10th highest ranked game on the list. You actually have to scroll down to find it at number 12. And that's not even the core game. It's a Vault Edition upgrade. The actual game is all the way down at number 15. In some ways, this isn't entirely unexpected because the main game is available as part of Game Pass. So very few people are going to actually buy it on the Xbox consoles, but that's still much further down on the list than we expected, you know? You know what games are at the top? Arc Raiders at number 1 and Battlefield 6 at number 2. Again, let me repeat, none of this means that Black Ops 7 is going to be a failure, and I don't think it's going to take one game to be like the end of Call of Duty as a franchise, but the dip could be significant enough that it'll maybe force Microsoft and Activision to reconsider the series' future and how they approach it. You have to keep in mind that this series now is a big part of the Xbox division's portfolio at this point. They bought Activision Blizzard for Call of Duty mostly. And it's a key part of their current shift in strategy by, I guess, fully committing to a multi-platform release strategy, you know? Microsoft and Xbox spent $75.4 billion to acquire Activision. And what is Activision's most popular franchise? Again, Call of Duty. And they need this series to be successful, to justify the amount of cash they spent on it. So Call of Duty can't just become like a regular old series, like a stalwart that just moves along. It needs to continue to be the biggest game ever for years and years to come. And that's what makes Black Ops 7's current status so interesting. The game is being promoted as the biggest Call of Duty in history. The other day I was in Times Square and I saw giant billboards everywhere, more than usual for a Call of Duty. And to their credit, there is a lot of video game here in this package, but if anything, it's even more of a cut-up collection of resources than even Modern Warfare 3. The campaign is especially guilty of this, being made up of mostly slightly altered multiplayer maps in a lot of sections, and half the game taking place in the...
It was only a matter of time till this happened to Call of Duty because you can't do a yearly release, regardless if you have two companies working at them at the same time, so that way, nobody has to get overworked or burned out. Inevitably, one of the companies was going to fall behind. I think even if you had 3 companies working on them, eventually it would take longer, but eventually they would fall behind to the point where they're like, just put the shit out. And like it's felt like that for me for the longest time, that they've been doing that. They're like, just put this shit, just put it out. Like, and it's been a copy and paste of Call of Duty over and over and over and over since like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and except for like Future Warfare and stuff like that. But it was only a matter of time till it happened. Like, it was only a matter of time till Call of Duty became a little bit stale. Like, and this one wasn't only stale, it was to the point where it's like kind of unbearable because of the fact that it's not even normie good. You know what I mean?
Avalon Warzone map they've apparently been sitting on for years at this point. They tried doing this with the Modern Warfare 3 campaign, and it also sucked there too. And don't even get me started on them like wasting the original and I think pretty good Black Ops lore on whatever is going on here. It's such a shame. The core multiplayer is better, and we said that in a before you buy. Like, we found the multiplayer to be pretty decent, but that's only because they've reversed course so much. We've basically reversed course back to like Black Ops 2. All innovation in the series has kind of bled out since Modern Warfare reboot, and it's like 2012 all over again, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does suggest that the Call of Duty developers, you know, they're trying to figure out, they don't really know like where to take the series now. All they can do is attempt to recreate these past glories. Sure, it's higher definition, insane graphics, all that, but everything else is worse. Part of that probably comes down to the bizarrely rushed development timeline. According to the developers themselves, Black Ops 6 and 7 were greenlit at the same time. They try to present this as a positive, but even when they're selling this as something to get excited about, you can still see the cracks present, like how they specifically mention wall running as an exciting new feature that'll appear in Black Ops 7. Guess what Black Ops 7 specifically doesn't have? You guessed it. Wall running ain't a thing in this game. And that campaign is where you can really see the struggles to get this game out the door. They try to justify how basic and empty everything is by making it a 4-player co-op campaign, but it's impossible not to notice just how slapped together and not as like high quality, good production value. Like the whole thing just doesn't feel great. I also just think the game is in an interesting spot because, again,
at one point or another, Activision is gonna get cocky, and they're gonna take this as a sign for them not to do single player anymore. And honestly, if they're gonna be doing that, if they're gonna be forcing developers to kind of that kind of like workload, they really shouldn't. They should don't make a campaign, but don't charge $70 for it either. You know what I mean? Did you get your rest in, Vic?
We had this really big Black Ops 6 last year, and then right away, it's just another Black Ops. We don't really technically get Black Ops games back to back. They space them out. They create a little more anticipation, a little hunger for the next flavor of a Call of Duty. Here, we got a Black Ops 6 and 7 right back to back. And the campaign stuff is rough because it was already kind of in rough shape. I mean, the story in Modern Warfare 3 was a mess, and that managed to feel like it completely
And it happened, just as I had predicted. Silver has overtaken Nvidia in the stock market. If there was any time to hit the panic button, now would be it. Get ready to own nothing. The sharp uptick in silver created panic over the weekend. I reported on it in my last video. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll leave a link down below. Also, You know, there's a bit of a face reveal there. But like I said, the sharp uptick in silver caused panic. So much so, even Elon Musk had to speak out on it in this tweet, leading many to believe, are we about to witness another 2008 crash because we saw a similar pattern before? Well, you know, I'm glad to report, surprisingly, that as of this morning, when the stock market reopened, or just a bit before that, silver saw a sharp decline. It went down 10% in minutes. Silver down 10% in minutes. Now we know why. That violent 10% candle wasn't retail selling. It was a forced liquidation event. News confirmed a major bank blew up in silver futures position at 2 a.m. from a missed margin call. 34 billion emergency Fed injection plus forced liquidation algorithm triggered. When a whale this big gets taken out, the market dumps everything to cover the hole. That's why we saw the 10% wipe out. The interesting part though is who funded this? Which bank? Well, apparently, as this story is written, it is 11:01 a.m. Eastern U.S. time on Sunday, December 28th. Reports have been coming in claiming a systemically important bank, a major player in silver futures, failed to pay its margin call by 2 a.m. and was liquidated by the futures exchange at 2:47 a.m. Eastern time. The reports are concealing the name of the bank, but it is confirmed that overnight the Federal Reserve was forced to pump another 34 billion into the banking system through its emergency overnight repo facility. This 34 billion is on top of the 17 billion which had to be pumped in 2 days ago on Friday morning. So it was all manipulation of the stock market. You can breathe a sigh of relief, or you can panic if you bought silver. Not much of a panic though, since silver will naturally keep going up, but you're not going to see another sharp uptick like that. Fortunately for us, this doesn't seem to be a sign of a major tech crisis like we had anticipated. Welcome back to the channel for Tango Plays here. We got a lot to talk about, but I mainly wanted to get the big story out of the way. I just want to say the explosion of subs on this channel is something I've never seen before. And I thought earlier this year I had hit my peak, but apparently not. Over 2,000 of you subbed. That's insane. I asked for 120,000 before the end of the year, and you did it. Now imagine if we hit 130,000. Oh, Frit, keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. I will. Just like a lot of companies need to continue dreaming that their own shortcomings are somebody else's doing. During what has to be the worst tech crisis we have ever seen in our lifetime, and the sharpest uptick in subscription pricing.
Thank you, Vito. I appreciate
Steam is being accused of being a monopoly. Steam is supposed to be the bad guy, while we're dealing with companies who don't even want you to own your hardware or your games. If you don't know what I'm talking about, have a read. Valve's Steam holds a monopoly on the PC games market, say 72% of industry executives surveyed. Of the 306 people questioned, 77% came from a studio with 50 plus employees. Are we being serious right now? Look, I understand that the research was done back in November, but you fast forward to December and this has aged terribly. Developers right now are dealing with companies who have no problem littering their store page with AI and not even fucking telling you it's AI. The funniest part is that the majority of these developers surveyed are AAA game developers. You know, the type who are willing to publish their game just about anywhere. Any type of bag they can secure for their game, they'll take. They'll publish on Epic Games Store, Steam, GOG, PS Store, the Xbox Store, the Windows Store. They'll sell anywhere. And you want to know why they'll sell anywhere? Because they can do that. Why can they do that? Because Steam doesn't have a fucking monopoly. There's this misconception that because Steam is the biggest digital platform that dwarfs all the other ones, they are a monopoly, but they didn't get there purchasing and buying up every single other company. Valve got there because they were just the first to start in the race. And unfortunately for them, Valve was interested in keeping that position, so they bettered their services to the point that it was hard to choose any other digital platform. They are simply the best. But most importantly, they're not the only place to publish, not even close. Hell, some developers outright skip Steam because people pay them to not publish there. And these AAA devs, they're
Thank you, Shauna.
They know that too, but they want to act like they're being forced to publish on Steam because Steam has taken over the market. They don't know. They have no clue what a monopoly is. These are the people making your video games. Low IQ morons who don't understand anything about the landscape that they even work in. Like, do you understand Steam's origins? Do you even understand how they got big? Like, when you're talking about companies like Microsoft, they literally ate up their competition. They bought out all the competition. Or you look at a company like even Nvidia, who's buying out its competition. Not even those companies are monopolies, but they display the same behavior as a monopoly. Valve doesn't do that. Valve's position isn't anywhere near close to even being able to monopolize a single thing. Like, they don't have the resources to even be one. I mean, it's amazing. Gabe Newell has done zero. He's done nothing, and he continues to win. Look at this. Right now, we're going through way, way bigger issues.
I mean, that's the truth. The reason why Steam is dominating on PC, not because there's a lack, because Steam bought all the competition, or because Steam is like this evil gaming publisher. It's because of the fact that they offer a good service. Their service is really what defines on there, and anybody who tries to like do a service like EA Online or Activision Online when they had one, or the Ubisoft Online, they usually fail unless they have like a giant game like the way Blizzard does with World of Warcraft, or Fortnite with Epic's Game Store. The reason why there's not that much competition is because nobody puts up the sales, nobody puts up the good services that that Valve does, and it's the truth.
And game developers want to talk about how Valve or Steam is a monopoly. Bitch, we are dealing with companies like Nvidia, who want to put a 100-hour limit cap on your playtime every month and force you to pay more to get more access to more hours to your own games.
Yep.
Or we got companies like Microsoft, who continue to degrade what was once a great service so that they can nickel and dime everything about it that once made it great, and gradually raise the price on you. I could go down a long list complaining about what every other company does, but you get the point. The only crime Valve has committed here is the crime of providing too good of a service. It's just crazy to me that this is the choice that some analyst made when questioning game devs. Yes, let's all concern over the possibility of Steam being a monopoly. That's the real concern. That's the real question, right? You're not questioning devs on the idea of a company like Nvidia setting an hourly cap on access to people's video games. You're not questioning them about that. You're not questioning them on things like Microsoft wanting to insert ads into people's video games. Some analyst had it out for Valve that day. Right now, there are far more pressing and urgent matters, because like we can all just laugh at the idea of Steam being a monopoly because it's not. But some people out there legitimately believe this is like the big evil. This is what we need to worry about. It's meant to serve as some sort of distraction. Try to get you to think negatively about something that doesn't really negatively affect consumers quite as much as what other companies are doing. See, now this is where we have to bring up Microsoft, because Microsoft is no longer a company that's about selling video games. Well, I mean, they are still selling video games to you as of this moment, and I have a feeling that they always will, but the prices are going to be ridiculous.
I mean,
we're talking $80 games. That's the goal, possibly even higher. And in a market like that, people are going to turn to subscription services. I did for a bit before canceling Game Pass. I said, the skyrocketing cost is preventing me from playing brand new games, but there's a service where brand new games release without having to pay that. It was called Game Pass. And that access, that dependency right there, that's Microsoft's strategy. As companies like them, Nvidia, Sony, they eventually want to shift to an all-streaming future, where the goal is to sell you access to your video games, not sell you the games. Because in a market like that, they reap all the benefits, every single one. So while Steam isn't a monopoly, you sure as hell would benefit.
Yeah, it also comes back to the fact that these game companies don't want you to have like physical copies of games anymore. It's sad because like physical copies, they're awesome and like they're good, but like to be honest with you, if you have like you need a lot of room to have like a lot of these copies that you keep over the years. And unfortunately a lot of people like the convenience of digital only. But the problem with that is that even if you get physical copies, you don't always get the physical copy. You just get like a digital code on a disc. And it's gonna get to the point this is where it all stems from. Game companies didn't like the fact that they couldn't get money from used games because like that's a resale. Technically, if you own a copy of the game, you can do whatever you want with it. But with digital, they have different agreements to where there can be like, oh yeah, like you don't own the game, you don't you're only renting it. But with a physical copy, they can't do that. You know what I mean? They by law they really can't do that. But if they're offering a service, they dictate what that service does. So, unfortunately, for a lot of people, like that's where it's heading to, and like it's gonna cause like a big commotion in the game industry once it does happen. Let alone that there's already commotion right now because the price is going up.
From Steam being a monopoly in that kind of market, wouldn't you? It'd be the only digital platform where you could still directly download and access your games in your own library. And I say that because that seems to continue to be Valve's direction. They are not branching off. They haven't come out to announce, hey, some streaming service for you. It's not like Microsoft with their, hey, play anywhere you want, on any device you want. You don't even have to own hardware. They want you to get comfortable with the idea because it's going to continue advancing and you're going to be living in a world where you gotta watch 5 Pepsi ads before you can continue your next Call of Duty session. And you can't do anything about it because there are no files for you to play around with because this game doesn't exist on any set of hardware. It exists on a service. And it's coming from a company like Microsoft who loves to gobble up its competition. That's a real concern. Rental services should always exist, but if we're talking about rental being the only option in the future, that would remove the need to have games on Steam for Microsoft, wouldn't it? Or a lot of other companies. A lot of other companies really want to shift hardcore into streaming so that one day they can just pull the plug on actual ownership of those games. That would hurt a lot of Steam users too, because so many companies publish their games there. Microsoft, Sony, Activision, Ubisoft, EA. If the plan is to eventually abandon ship and leave Steam sinking with a heavy exit from a market that once depended on people buying games, you will see the complete opposite of a monopoly. It's like these people don't think it through. They don't understand what the worst possible outcomes could be. Because right now, the fact that you can even play your games offline in 2025 is a luxury so many people are taking for granted. The fact you can purchase a digital product with the
it's about how everything's gonna be kind of digital in the future. You know how video games right now, like you can go on Steam and you can buy a digital game, and how a lot of physical copies for a lot of people, like you don't really own your game when you buy it digitally, especially on Steam. Like if you buy it on Steam, technically you're just renting it, and that's what Sony and Xbox want to do eventually, is that they want to get rid of physical copies and or physical or digital copies that you can keep forever and basically rent them instead of owning them, because they basically it goes back to used games and how they don't like the fact that you can sell those and they don't make a profit from it, which it just goes back from back in the day that they almost tried to do something about that but they never could. But yeah, this is their attempt to try to go to that level again.
the freedom to install and uninstall it as many times as you want and play it without an online connection. Like, we are in the perfect position. It should never shift from here, but they want it to. Make no mistake about it. Companies like Nvidia and companies like Microsoft, and hell, maybe even a company like Google, they would love for nothing more than to see Steam collapse so that they can then reap the benefits of selling game access to morons who believe there is no difference, who think, hey, you know, if I play a game this way or that way, it's the same shit. You know, the same type of people who are like, well, if the game's 30 FPS
I agree.
or 60 FPS, it don't matter. There's no difference. Yeah, that type of imbecile, they exist in the millions, and they are the reason the market will shift in that direction. Companies like Nvidia that position themselves on selling tech to gamers, or a company like Microsoft that sold tech and games to gamers, are now shifting to selling you services, while Valve continues its traditional route of selling video games and now selling hardware in the hopes of probably building a very specific niche market for themselves that we could only hope expands and grows, because I don't want to live in a world where all of this is pulled directly from me. I know we joke about it, you know, but the way Nvidia wants to put a 100-hour limit cap once a month on access to your video games.
It's been over a month since the game.
Y'all remember the Steam Machine that we saw the reveal of the other day? And we were all excited. Now that RAM price has gone up, it's kind of scary, to be honest with you.
GameCube was officially announced. While the perception initially was very, very positive, I mean, people really loving it, and a dislike ratio on a product announcement that doesn't mention AI in 2025 is just amazing to see, to be honest. But now an almost internal war has been breaking out. People completely divided about this, and honestly, it's for a good reason, because people want the GameCube to be very freaking good. Valve has a great reputation of things that they release. They get glazed all the time. A lot of people love Valve, and we just kind of want them to succeed. But now we're seeing takes about the GameCube that don't seem that excited anymore.
We committed the crime of suggesting that the Valve Steam Machine potentially not going to be a highly successful product.
It's going to be difficult for this thing to really make sense. Obviously, it all hinges on the price. We don't know the price, but it's unlikely it's going to be priced where it would need to be in order to purchase it.
All that Valve would tell us is that they want their hardware business to be sustainable. But what does that mean? I think it means $699 US. If there's no major changes in the market.
Then there's the other side of the aisle that says everything that has been going on, the criticisms about it, seem like they're incorrect.
Valve said that the Steam Machine is going to be priced like a PC and not a console. I think at the root of what Valve is saying is that they're not going to subsidize the hardware.
I think that we're probably going to be looking at a price point of like 1,100 for the lower end and like 1,500 for the higher end. You guys are saying 700.
But I think those fears are pretty misplaced. I think when you look at the items that are in here and what you can buy them for on your own, it's not going to reach anywhere near those levels.
People are really torn about what the price is going to be. Is this going to be dead on arrival because people don't want to buy it? Who actually wants to get the Steam Machine? Who is this made for? And will the specs even hold up, because they aren't amazing? Because now we've seen people build versions of the Steam Machine, basically simulate the performance of what it would be. So first off, you know, I've made stuff about this before. You've probably known shit about it at this point too. But basically the CPU is a 6-core Zen 4 processor. This is a Ryzen processor from AMD, and it goes up to 4.8 gigahertz with a 30-watt TDP. So it isn't a super high power chip. Usually desktop ones, usually their low end is like 65 watts, and really higher end are more like 200 watts. Like they can get really.
I think the part that people are missing here, especially the enthusiast PC gamers, like, I think the thing that Valve is going for, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna delay the Steam Machine, like I would at least, because they essentially are like, hey, here's a PC with SteamOS on it and it costs $4.99, right? And they're more than likely gonna delay it because they're not gonna be able to honor that price. And you already hear rumors of the PlayStation 6 being delayed because of these RAM shortages that are going on. So, like, the specs don't have to be amazing. The price just has to be good. And if somebody wants something stronger, all they have to do is build a PC and put SteamOS on it, and you're good to go. So it's like, it does the exact same thing.
High power. This is very low power. This seems like the Ryzen 5 7640U, just without the integrated graphics on it. Those are just kind of chopped off and forgotten about. And overall, this is like fine. It's not like a crazy processor. It's pretty entry to maybe mid-level, but really the most limiting part about this is probably the power limit. But then it also only has 6 cores, which in a lot of games that are pretty CPU intensive nowadays, they could go up to more like 8 cores. Then the other thing that is brought up is the graphics card that's in it. And these are separately soldered chips on the board.
And Valve considered modular CPUs and GPUs, but settled on soldering both chips to the board for thermal and size reasons. Unfortunately, this means it's not upgradable because they're soldered to the board, but it gives them more control over it, makes it smaller.
So if you were to compare it like a PS5 or an Xbox, the CPU and the GPU are combined into one chip. My bad, my dog is barking. I have no clue what she's barking at. The normal PC, you could just plug in a new graphics card if you wanted to upgrade that, but that's not the case here. Now, this chip is a RDNA 3, also from AMD. RDNA 3 28 compute unit chip. It goes up to 2.45 gigahertz and 110 watt TDP. Most things have basically led to this basically being the equivalent of a Radeon 7600M processor. This is a Navi 33 die, which is RDNA 3, just like how it said. And it seems like the base clock and the TDP are similar, 90 watts, whereas on the Steam machine, it will go up to 110. So it should clock a little bit higher as well. And it does seem like they are allowing you to possibly overclock this or take away some power from the CPU to give more power to the GPU.
You know, we're tinkers ourselves. Definitely made sure that the Steam machine is out with that in mind.
And it seems like a technology that they're also using is trying to combine the TDP of the CPU and the GPU with an AMD technology called it's like smart memory or something.
Yeah, I agree. The consoles have been doing it for a while, where they're kind of like making essentially like a custom APU, but I think that AMD's push when it comes to like the whole APU front has been really smart on their part, because that's literally where it's heading, especially if prices keep being the same as they are.
I forget what it's called. And overall, how it stacks up, it seems like it's going to be a little bit slower than a PS5.
I think I have better lighting.
Your lighting.
That's insane. What? I would hope for at least PlayStation 5 Pro.
Details are better.
Is definitely better.
But if I were to pick one, I actually think I would pick that.
I was gonna say I'd probably pick the PlayStation.
Interesting.
There's no clear winner. There's no obvious winner.
Remember, the PS5 came out in 2020. It's not exactly new, and the PS5 does struggle in quite a bit of games. Like, it says it's running 4K, but really it's just upscaling from like 1080p up to 4K most of the time, which can look okay, but that's also what Valve has said about the
Yeah, that shit's gonna be soldered the fuck on
Steam machine.
The mandate that we had was you need to be able to play every game on Steam, or at least have the enough performance to play every game on Steam at 4K, 60 hertz when using upscaling.
And the reason why I think they have to say that is because it's 4K, it has to be on a TV. Most TVs are 4K nowadays. I mean, just look, you can get one for like $200. So that's probably what they're targeting, or they feel like they have to target.
This is where the enthusiast YouTubers get annoy the fuck out of me. Most people don't have 4K TVs still. Yes, there's a lot of people who have it, but most people do not have 4K, and it doesn't make sense for them to make a machine that can play 4K games or even upscale at 4K. Well, maybe upscale at 4K, but 1440p at most is what this machine should be doing.
Target it, when realistically this would be a much better like 1080p chip, maybe even a 1440p chip if you want to use a little bit up.
Yeah, that's what it's for. It's not made for you guys. It's made for the everyday person. 1440p, 1080p, like, most people don't have 4K fucking TVs. Like, please.
Scaling and stuff. And especially because of the most controversial thing about this chip is that it only has 8 gigabytes of VRAM. 8 gigabytes in 2025 isn't a...
Well, that's who it's for. It's for the market of the console players. Like, that's who they want to target. They want to target console players. They want to target people who are like, oh yeah, like I've always wanted to try Steam, but I always wanted the console experience. And like those people can buy it, and most of those people don't have 4K TVs. They have at the very most a 1080p or 1440p screen. But for you guys and for the guy talking on the thing, if you want something stronger, build a PC and put SteamOS on it, because eventually SteamOS is going to become a thing to where you can just install it and use your PC as a console, have all those features that you wanted on PC for the longest time, where games upgrade on their own, where while it's asleep, or like the way the PlayStation does, or being able to like just pick up a controller and turn it on. All this stuff SteamOS is gonna do, and it's gonna appeal to people. It's supposed to appeal to people like console people, or casual gamers as well. Whoa, I hear something. Oh, okay, never mind. And so because of that, like, I think that they're gonna delay this system because it has to be priced good. Like, this thing cannot come out and be $6.99. It will be the biggest fucking failure on the planet if it comes out and it's like $5.99 or $6.99, $599 US all over again. That's what it will be.
Exactly. Good. Just introducing it in 2025
Exactly.
when Valve is going to probably be
And look how
using
small it is. It's so portable and like GameCube-y, where you can be like, hey, I'm gonna take this over so we can play games, and it's like, it's the convenience, but it also has to be priced good.
this console or supporting this console to the future for probably like 5 to 7 years or something. That's a pretty low amount of VRAM, I'm not gonna lie. And even the system memory isn't very high. It is only 16 gigabytes when a lot of PCs are putting in 32 gigs nowadays. I mean, we know about RAM prices though, so, but I think part of the argument is because it's on SteamOS, it's not on Windows. It's not going to use as much system memory. Now, what's interesting is we've seen some people try to emulate what a Steam machine
Oh, for sure, it's gonna be better than your Steam Deck.
would actually perform like. Like, in order to get 4K performance, you have to use like ultra performance upscaling, which means you're upscaling from like 720p up to 4K. It might look fine though. It's really not spec'd out to be 4K in 2025. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, but it's running on Linux. It runs so much better than Windows. And I'm yet to personally test this for myself, but I do have a feeling that I don't think you're going to be getting like 50% more performance or something like
Damn,
that. And
this
this was
one
apparently
package.
Valve's target. They wanted games to just be able to achieve this performance. Their justification, Steam does have the Steam hardware survey. And if you were to look at this, apparently, and I don't really like this argumentation that much.
You know, we can essentially look at everybody's devices. We understand what the median performance looks like for people. We understand where the Steam machine is going to be positioned relative to those. We think it's going to be a good upgrade path for a lot of people.
But apparently this machine is more powerful than like 70% of
And that's what I mean. It's like most people are still working on a 3060 Ti. I only recently upgraded to a 5060 Ti. Holy shit. And that's because I am a game creator. I am a person who needs powerful hardware in order to go online, in order to make my videos, in order to do all this stuff. Most people that are looking at the Steam Deck, again, this price point matters. They are looking for something that is portable, affordable, and that plays all their games like the way a console would, but with Steam. That's what they're looking for. Most people are not like us, hardcore gamers that are like, it looks a little wobbly in 4K. Nobody cares. Most people don't have 4K TVs.
computers that are out there. And if you check things like with the CPU, 6 CPU cores is the most popular level of CPUs, but it is dropping over time and more people are using 8 cores. So you can see where the direction is going. People are getting a little bit more cores on their CPUs. The most common type of VRAM on people's GPUs is 8 gigabytes, and that is at about 33%. But obviously more people are trying to get to like 19%. That's even growing on 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and even 16 gigabytes of VRAM is growing quite a bit too. It's a weird argumentation here. Is like, yeah, they hit the absolute average PC, but that's average right now, and the market is going to be trending a different direction in the future. So it almost seems like they could be
build a PC. Simple as that.
holding back developers from making stuff on PC.
The same idea as the Steam Deck. I think it was really important to us that the level of performance and experience that you get is the same across the board. It's simple for developers to target, and it's simple for users to pick what platform they want to use.
Because this is gonna be slower for the most part than a PS5. A PS5 has an 8-core CPU and a bigger, beefier GPU on it. And most people could just buy a console. I think honestly the only reason they can even say that it is like faster than 70% of PCs that are out there, because if you even see on PC, let's look at the graphics cards. One of the most popular graphics cards in the world is just Radeon like graphics built on board. Maybe could be pretty fast. Just because they play games on Steam and get the Steam hardware survey doesn't necessarily mean that they have a dedicated gaming system with a big old graphics card that's in it. Like a lot of people just play light games on PC and use the integrated graphics on their laptop or something, or even just like low-end laptop GPUs and stuff might be around the bottom of the PC gaming stack, because to be honest, this is gonna be slower than a PS5 for the most part. And that console is 5 years old, and I think a lot of people on PC have pretty much caught up to where the PS5 is. So this does make me kind of take a step back and think about who is Valve making this for. It could be for somebody who already has a gaming PC, but just wants to bring that PC into their living room.
Thank you. That's what it's for. That's literally what
And
it's
basically
for.
maybe stream games to their living room. Or it could be for somebody that already has a Steam Deck, but wants something more powerful, and they like the Steam
Natalia, that's right there.
operating system and everything that's closer to a console, even though you still have to tinker with some more things. Like, remember, you're on PC, so you still have a whole graphics settings options to tinker with if you really want to. And the last option would be is that you really are on a console already, and
Thank
you
you
might
for the
want to
follow
try
or
PC.
subscription.
Maybe this is a smooth enough experience for you. Like Valve has said it themselves, they want to remove as much friction to the gaming experience as possible.
Steam Deck Verified is also a great example of that, right? So people can sort of know. Carousel is always showing you the last game you played. Theme here of how do we get you playing as fast as possible? And we kind of just go through the whole process and eliminate all those friction points. Another one actually is the CEC support, right? So Steam Machine also can wake up your TV and your soundbar and set all those channels for you just by a single button press,
while still giving you the benefits of being on a PC if you want to dig into that. So those are like the three options. All of those do depend on the price. One of the major things that we're looking at here of why this is such an average PC in 2025, I don't think this is as bad of a decision as we might want to make it out to be, because I think Valve got some really good deals. The CPU, for example, I'm not exactly sure where this might have come from, but it might have been from AMD just overproducing these 6-core low-power laptop CPUs, and maybe those weren't selling as well compared to Intel just recently released like a really nice power-efficient chip, so maybe they're competing with that. The last time around with the Steam Deck, they actually bought this extra chip that AMD just kind of had laying around. Basically, AMD had produced these for Microsoft because Microsoft was going to put these in like Surface laptops or something. And Microsoft ended up backing out of that deal. Steam took up that opportunity. This was already a design chip. It wasn't made yet, but Steam was like, hey, we'll go ahead and use that design and we can guarantee a few million sales on this device or something like that. So Valve got a really good deal on the chips for the Steam Deck, and they probably are doing the exact same thing with this. They don't make as much hardware and they don't sell as many units as like Sony or PlayStation, so they can't leverage that same amount. And really they're looking for the best deal possible because they realize that these devices need to be affordable if they want a lot of people to end up buying them.
If it's on Steam, this device will have enough performance to play to these settings. But we obviously also wanted to make the device affordable, right? Like, we understand that affordability is really important. So we kind of kept that in mind and make sure that's a device that's going to be reachable for a lot of people.
So that's where it also comes down to the GPU. It's like, why do we get this like 8GB card in 2025? And why is it just not really that fast? This might be because back in like 2023, when AMD was producing these chips, that was faster than NVIDIA's RTX 4060. And this was the 4060 laptop GPU. AMD really wanted to capitalize and try to get the entry-level market of laptop gaming. This didn't end up working. And it's because NVIDIA's 4060, yeah, it was a little bit more expensive, but it was more power efficient. And it had about the same amount of performance than the AMD chip that they're trying to offer. And a lot of these gaming laptops are costing like $1,000 if they have a dedicated graphics card in them. So a lot of companies that are putting it into their laptops are just going to be like, hey, we're just going to put the NVIDIA chip in there. This is a big bet from AMD. They saved a lot of their Navi 33 dies, the same ones that are on the 7600 on the desktop processors. They saved a lot of the low-end versions of these to put them into laptops. And all of a sudden, they weren't selling as many of them. So there's a pretty good theory that Valve got a good deal on these chips as well. And they might be able to keep the price down. And that's what brings me to this. Some people have been estimating what is the actual cost of the Steam machine to make, because Valve has gone out here and said that it's comparable to like a built PC.
Where does the price land? I know you haven't announced a price yet, but can you give us any information about what consumers might expect in this regard?
I think that if you build a PC from parts and get to basically the same level of performance, that's the general price window that we aim to be at.
Okay.
Ideally, we'd be pretty competitive with that and have a pretty good deal, but we're working on refining that as we speak.
And if you're to build a PC, a lot of people have been trying to replicate the specs.
That's not comforting because right now prices are going up. I would delay it. I would honestly delay it.
Of this, and it seems to be about like $600 to $650 before all the issues with RAM and everything. Moore's Law is Dead is saying it only costs about $425 in order to make the Steam machine, which really doesn't seem like that much. And it seems like in the industry, you know, once you start doing the
$399, anybody? $399 if that's the case?
shipping as well, because Valve is going to ship this themselves. They're not bringing this to retailers as well. The system RAM probably wouldn't cost the same between the Steam Deck on the left and the Steam machine on the right. Even though there's the same amount of RAM, technically speaking, it's because the Steam Deck would be soldered onto, and the Steam machine would have SODIMM memory that you click into place. And those are just bigger modules, so I think they would cost more, and you need the hardware on the PCB in order to accommodate that. So like some things I see here probably don't quite line up, but it is probably a decent estimate. It wouldn't surprise me if Valve could still make a profit at like $600. And Tom at Moore's Law is Dead did do this stuff for a living at one point, so he has a decent amount of experience. And the performance of these aren't that crazy, but this does start to answer some of the questions, like, is this going to be relatively affordable? Because Valve has come out here and said that it's not going to be subsidized.
So, but it's not going to be a sort of subsidized device. Like Valve's not going into this thinking we're going to eat a big loss on this so that we can grow market like share or category or anything like that, correct?
No, it's more in line with what you might expect from the current PC market.
Usually the console pricing structure, maybe not as much recently because you've seen console prices go up like crazy, but like usually because they lock you into that ecosystem, they can guarantee some sales. But the Steam machine is in a weird situation.
Steam machine is a PC, so run whatever software you want. Steam machine is a PC.
Yes, a lot of people are probably going to use it for gaming, and you'd probably be buying games on Steam because it's already has a Steam OS on it. It's just convenient. But at the same time, they can't necessarily guarantee sales on Steam because at the end of the day, it is a computer and you can put your own operating system on it if you want, or just use a completely different store entirely.
Most people are not going to mess with that.
Just don't use it for gaming at all. Steam has to guarantee that you're going to spend some money on the store, and they can't necessarily guarantee that with the Steam machine. So it's probably not a good idea to subsidize it, to be honest. They should try to make at least a little bit of money on each sale. Now, something you do notice is, yes, Moore's Law is Dead is comparing it to the build of materials of the Steam Deck. And you see that is only came out to about $300 for the, or at least nowadays. I don't know if it still costs them the same to build this, but yeah, it's only $400. Steam is making them for $300. So technically speaking, I don't know if this includes shipping, but they're making $100 profit on every single unit that's sold. And that's really not that bad of a profit margin in the tech industry. So a lot of people say that they're subsidizing the Steam Deck, and that might not even be entirely true unless you're talking about the software development as well. I mean, my estimate is that they're going to end up selling it like at current stuff of how things are right now of about like $600 would kind of make sense, but we've got some problems, and we all know about the RAM problem. It is so freaking expensive. It's funny, you just go to like any YouTube video in the tech space nowadays. Like Jay just made a video about OLED TVs and OLED monitors. Finally, I can buy an OLED monitor for less than a couple RAM sticks, because RAM really has gone up a lot. Here's the price increases in just a short period of time, and now so many people in the community are just making videos about like, hey, can we try to fix the RAM solution? Like, how do we get around this RAM situation? Jay made some hardware unbox, has 2 videos on this now. Is like, could you just buy 1 stick of RAM right now, get away with it, and then buy another one later and upgrade it? And also, the greatest technician to ever live just made this, where you could put SODIMM memory onto your motherboard. There's a lot of people just trying to get around the RAM shortage right now. What's kind of worrying is because Valve is a smaller company, they have to deal hunt quite a bit. It's how much leverage do they have to guarantee contracts or try to build up a stockpile of memory before this shit hits the fan? Because, for example, Sony, who makes PlayStations, obviously, they were already ahead of this. They bought up a bunch of RAM, prepared to not be able to buy that much for a while. So Sony's PlayStation consoles are going to probably remain at their price for quite a while, whereas Xbox did not do this, and Xbox is going to get price hikes relatively soon. But we don't really know how long Sony's supply, their stockpile, will even last, but it seems like they're going to be okay for a little while at least. Did Valve
They should be good for the
stockpile a
next
bunch
year
of
and a
memory?
half.
Did Valve make contracts and set these in place so they don't get ripped off in the future? We don't really know. And it seems like Valve could be hesitant about this. They are still thinking about pricing right now.
Right now is just a hard time to have a really good idea of what the price is going to be, because there's a lot of different things that are fluctuating.
A lot of external factors there.
And if you check the SODIMM memory right now that is in the Steam machine, Crucial, by the way, but they're one of the only companies that makes SODIMM memory that would go into the Steam machine. This is retail pricing, so like what we would buy. Currently for 16 gigs of memory, it is like $144. And if you check the pricing trends on this just recently, not even that long ago, in like August, consistently going for like $55. And now it's like, like $144. It's almost increased 3 times in price. So if Steam would be paying off the shelf prices or close to that, maybe just in some...
I forgot about that. Steam could have literally have made a contract with whoever's making this, like Soda, I think it's Soda, whoever is making that RAM, they could have literally made a deal to where they're like, okay, we're gonna get this, we're gonna pay you this amount, and that's the contract. So regardless if prices go up, they have a contract. So that's like good news, I guess.
Bulk orders, the RAM could increase quite a bit. Right now it's only being estimated about $48 from that build of materials from Moore's Law is Dead. Could that increase 3 times? And that would add $100 to the cost. And that doesn't even mention that the SSD prices for the storage are also increasing right now. They've almost gone up like 2 times the price. Are they going to eat that cost? Is Valve gonna basically sit here and say, like, we have some amount of memory stockpiled for the launch of the device? Like, maybe we could sell it at a lower price at the beginning because we already have some units made. But then after they run out of their stockpile, would they increase the price? That doesn't sound like a good idea. That's bad PR. Like, where are they gonna position the pricing here? Are they gonna try to wait for things to cool down before they launch it and guarantee that in the future they could have this price? Valve has obviously said that they want to focus on affordability.
Obviously our goal is for it to be a good deal at that level of performance, and then you have features that are actually really hard to build if you're making your own gaming PC from parts.
That makes me think they're not trying to be stupid about this. I just have no clue how much they've made, how much they have access to right now.
I got burned on my entire
once
body.
they run out, what would be the price after that point? I've even seen some suggestions out here that they might need to do a bare bones version where you could buy one, for like $400 and then bring your own memory and bring your own SSD to go inside of it, which is a little bit more annoying, to be honest, for the end consumer. I don't think a lot of people would want to do that. But if you have extra RAM, I guess, then you could get away with doing that. Maybe they could make this happen. And seriously, the most worrying part about this is because Valve hasn't announced a price. They haven't announced a price on any of these things, to be honest, even the headset, because they're not saying anything about the price and they're giving us hints that it might not be that cheap. There's a lot of people out here, even ones that are very positive about the Steam machine, mostly. There's people out here that are saying, like, if this costs more than like $700, this thing is completely dead on arrival.
$800, I'm gonna give it a true. It is dead on arrival at $800.
And I completely agree with that.
It's dead on arrival if it's anything higher than $499. Like, straight up. It's dead on arrival if it's anything like
this has
Natalia. If it costs more than $500, are you gonna buy it? Like, seriously, chat, are you gonna buy it if it costs more than $500?
To be competitive with consoles, or else people are just gonna build a PC. You know, this does have nice conveniences that consoles typically have, and I like that stuff. It's better for a living room environment, but at the end of the day, people will just buy a PS5 or an Xbox. People won't buy this if it's too expensive, especially because the specs are not that impressive. Valve might have a trick up their sleeve though. A super interesting insight that I came upon is that this might not fall under tariffs that the consoles would fall under. And this is because the Steam Machine is classified as a PC and not a toy or a console like the other ones. And PCs are getting exclusions from a lot of the tariffs. So we might be in luck. Them not saying the price right now means they're either not confident, they know what it's going to cost, they don't know at all and they're waiting to see, or they know that the price isn't going to be that attractive, so they're not revealing it yet because it's going to be bad for marketing, bad for PR. Now, I don't think they should hide that kind of stuff. That doesn't really help because people are still going to find out the price eventually, but that's also a possibility. And there's one conspiracy theory that could be going on, is that Valve all along here, they already know the price. They already locked in all these contracts and they don't want to reveal the price right now because it keeps us talking about it. It keeps in the limelight until really they end up releasing it, and that isn't going to be until sometime next year, maybe even Q2 of 2026. That's a possibility. I don't think that's the case, to be honest, because in interviews it seems like Valve is also kind of concerned.
Grand Theft Auto 6 should have the most immersive NPCs of all time. So sit back, relax, and just enjoy yourself in this holiday season. And we are about to look into everything we know about NPC behavior and schedules in Grand Theft Auto 6. And when I say everything, I mean everything that's been confirmed, either strongly indicated by like official sources. We're going to cover everything from that over to wild speculation because you know how much I love that stuff. But here's the thing. This might be the most ambitious NPC system we've ever seen before, ever created for a video game. So before we get into the meat of it, let's establish what we actually know for certain.
I hope that the NPCs are if it's more than so. Okay, gotcha. I hope the NPCs in GTA 6 are crazy advanced. They spent like over $1 billion making this game. Better have gone into like the AI for the NPCs.
Rockstar Games and Take-Two Interactive have filed multiple patents, yada yada. You guys always hear me talk about patents, but we have patents and trailers and leaks to go off of. And there's a lot that we can extrapolate from that information. These things give us real insight into what they're building. I'm talking about patent US 11684855B2, titled, of course, System and Method for Virtual Navigation in a Gaming Environment, filed by David Hind and Simon Parr from Rockstar North. There's also patent US 11620781B1 for System and Method for Virtual Character Locomotion, which I just recently talked about. And that one was created by Tobias, I think, Cleanhouse. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's Rockstar's lead AI and gameplay programmer. So what I'm about to tell you, it's not all just rumors and stuff. This is stuff actually coming from official technical documents that outline revolutionary systems for how NPCs will behave in Grand Theft Auto 6. So let's start with what Rockstar has shown us in their official trailers. The first trailer dropped on December 4th, 2023, I think, and the second on May 6th, 2025. Both trailers were captured entirely in-game, meaning what we saw was supposed to be, at least, actual gameplay, and of course it was mixed with cutscenes, and apparently all of this was running on a PlayStation 5. I've started zooming in on these frames and stuff as I've been making these videos, and it is kind of obvious that it is running on a PlayStation 5. You start to see the magic of how they're doing it. Like if you zoom in, it looks like a PlayStation 5. I don't know the technical know-how, but how the pixels look. So look, I'm zooming in right now, showing you what I'm talking about, but the full picture when it comes together sure is beautiful though. So what did we see in these trailers? We saw massive crowds of NPCs at beaches and city centers, NPCs with their phones out, actively filming and photographing what's happening around them. We saw NPCs dancing together, walking in groups, having conversations, exercising, naturally getting in and out of cars. The variety was just ridiculous. Different body types, clothing styles, tattoos, skin tones. And I know you're like, dude, this is in almost every game ever with NPCs, but no, I mean, really, look, you can really see the detail with their NPCs with this screenshot of this guy who reminds me of that meme where the guy's turning around and looking at that lady and his wife's giving him that stare. Just look at these old people. They look old and everyone's like sunburned and stuff. It's legit, man. At least texturing wise and how they look, there's so much detail there. But there should be even more detail with how we go about interacting with these NPCs. Think about Red Dead Redemption 2 and the way we interacted with them in that. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's just when you watch the trailers, every frame felt like it was just packed with life. Think about that beach shot, that first time you saw it. I saw one comment somewhere and they're like, the first thing I'm gonna do is throw a grenade right there. And I mean, that's how it goes with Grand Theft Auto games, right? But Grand Theft Auto 6, man, just looks ridiculous with the trailers. I don't have to tell you that, you've seen it yourself. But here's where it gets really interesting. According to those patents, NPCs in Grand Theft Auto 6 are getting a complete overhaul in how they navigate and exist in the world. So in previous Grand Theft Auto games, NPCs would basically follow invisible waypoints. They drive in predetermined patterns, and when something unexpected happened, they'd react in a limited, often ridiculous way. Remember slamming into an NPC in Grand Theft Auto 5 and you just kind of watch them immediately forget you exist 5 seconds later? Because that's how the system's created. It's basic, and it had to be for the hardware for the time, and that's why Grand Theft Auto 5 in a lot of ways felt like a step backward from Grand Theft Auto 4. That navigation pattern though really does change a lot, because it suggests that instead of NPCs blindly following waypoints, they're going to use hierarchical course graph navigation. And over the course of creating these videos, I swear I've gotten better at saying hierarchical. But anyways, in simple terms, NPCs will understand the road network at a high level. They'll know which roads lead where, which routes are faster, which areas to avoid. Each NPC will have its own driving profile with unique characteristics, different acceleration and braking distances, different top speeds, different cornering abilities. Some NPCs will be cautious drivers who obey every traffic law. Others, they're going to be aggressive, weaving through traffic, speeding, taking risks. And it gets even crazier. NPCs will make real-time decisions based on what's actually happening around them. If there's a traffic jam, and you've heard me talk about this before, but if there's a traffic jam, they can reroute to side streets. If there's a car accident blocking the road, they'll detect it and navigate around it. If it's raining, they'll slow down and adjust their driving. The patent explicitly states that NPCs will drive slower on residential streets and perform specific maneuvers to avoid oncoming traffic on single-lane roads. The system also uses significantly...
What, GTA 6? I guarantee you it's not going to be. That it might be disappointing, yes, but if you mean by flop that it's like sells, that thing's going to sell a fuck ton. I don't think it's going to be disappointing. I think Rockstar is probably one of the few people in the gaming industry that I know it's gonna be good when it comes out. There's like maybe 2 or 3 more developers that I'm like that with.
Less processing power than conventional NPC systems. This is what I was primarily talking about in the AI video, about how they're using AI for optimization strategies as well with the Rage 9 engine. So all of this means Rockstar can have way more NPCs on screen without tanking performance. Oh man, I'm sorry guys, I just keep tripping over my words, and that's because I need more sleep. So you might be asking me, Dandy Andy, what's that incredibly comfortable looking thing on your face? Well, today's video is sponsored by Manta Sleep, the people behind the best sleep masks I've ever used in my life. And look, I'm not kidding here. I run this channel, now I've got a little podcast, I'm editing nonstop, and I work on top of all of that. So sleep, it's very rare, and oh man, I have so much trouble falling asleep. The Manta Sleep mask is a freaking lifesaver. Manta Sleep's masks are fully adjustable, they fit literally any face, and they give you 100% blackout. The eye cups are also super soft, breathable, which means you don't have to worry about your face getting all sweaty, and there's zero pressure on your eyelids. These guys are on the cutting edge of sleep mask technology, and they don't just have this one mask. You've got options. They've got the original mask, which is 100% blackout, cool mask, at least sometimes Andy 10 next level with data-driven animation system. Game, it seems things are just, I mean, it's bonkers, man. They're going next level with everything they do for this game, it seems. The character locomotion patent that I brought up earlier outlines a data-driven
Cyberpunk was, I hate saying this about CD Projekt Red because they're such a beloved name in the gaming community, but Cyberpunk 2077 was a bad habit that was finally put in the limelight because there wasn't veteran developers there anymore. A lot of the, like, if you look at all the Witcher games, they all came out kind of janky. They weren't as bad as Cyberpunk, but they were pretty bad. And they fixed them like pretty quickly. But Cyberpunk was just an unfinished game that was rushed way too quickly. It needed at least another year or two, like a year of crunch, to like make that game worth it.
Driven animation system that's completely different from traditional animation trees. Instead of having separate pre-made animations for every possible scenario, Grand Theft Auto 6 uses modular animation building blocks that can then be combined.
Yes, it's a masterpiece now, but when it came out, that game was janky as hell. It was very glitchy, really bad. And CD Projekt Red is known for doing things like that. Usually their games come out pretty pretty janky sometimes that they need to do a bunch of updates.
Dynamically. Think of it kind of like Lego pieces for movement. Here's how it works. Every NPC has what's called a blackboard, a virtual representation of their current state that stores information about their condition, location, the weather, temperature, and everything else, a bunch more stuff. The game's code reads this blackboard and dynamically selects appropriate animations based on all these factors. So if an NPC is walking in the rain while tired, the system blends together building blocks for wet weather movement, fatigue, and their base walking skill. If they're injured, that gets factored in too. So what's the result of all of these systems working together? Well, NPCs that move in ways that actually match their current situation and emotional state. This means you could see the same NPC move completely differently depending on the context of what's happened to them. Relaxed and confident on a sunny day beach, or hunched and hurried during a rainstorm. These are things that you've seen before, but we're seeing a bit of an advancement here in how
I can use The Witcher 2 as an example. The Witcher 2 came out, I think it was The Witcher 2 came out, and it was pretty bad on PC. But once The Witcher 2, the definitive edition, came out on Xbox, it was really well done. It was all the bugs were like taken care of. And as far as I don't think Rockstar releases this game if they're gonna need to do updates. Like I think they'll have a day one patch, but I don't think that they'll release it and be like, hey, we'll fix it later. That's honestly not Rockstar style. And there's a reason why they're spending $1 billion on this game. It's because they want it to be as polished as possible.
how all of these systems work together and how natural it will be that these NPCs react to the world around them. And you've seen, like, when you shoot an NPC in the leg, they'll limp and stuff in the past, so stuff like that, of course, is going to be in this game. But the variety of possible animations becomes nearly endless because the way the system is designed, it's generating them on the fly by combining these building blocks. So instead of just playing an animation and then, you know, Euphoria kind of plays after, or however the Euphoria physics system worked into it, we're going to see a lot more on-the-spot kind of animations that should look a little different every time you see them. And that's the biggest thing here, is when you see an animation in another game, in another Grand Theft Auto game or a Rockstar game, you've seen the animations before. Once you've seen them enough, you've seen them. Even with the Euphoria physics and the randomness that adds, this should add another level of complexity when it comes to what you see NPCs actually do around you. And subconsciously, at least, this will make the world around you feel just so much more alive. And you might not be able to pinpoint why. Well, it's because you're not seeing the same exact animations over and over and over again. And all evidence suggests this system is going to be in Grand Theft Auto 6, but evolved for the modern setting. As I've said previously, Red Dead Redemption 2 has some of this, but in Grand Theft Auto 6, it's going to be next level. There's really no other way to put it. NPCs are going to remember past interactions with you to some extent. Now, how far? We're not sure. I don't think it's going to be an NPC per NPC kind of thing where every NPC has a soul and remembers every single thing you ever did and what you ate for breakfast that morning. I think it's probably going to be more region-based, kind of like New Vegas. And it already kind of was in Red Dead Redemption 2. If you shot up Valentine or something, when you come back, they'd be like, hey, don't come back here. So stuff like that, just expect that, but more expanded on. And if you threatened a shopkeeper 3 days ago in this game, they'll recognize you when you come back. Think about those systems in Red Dead Redemption 2 that were there with the NPCs, and now advance those a little bit in your mind and then put them into Grand Theft Auto 6. That's basically kind of what we're going to see. Because Red Dead Redemption 2 made massive advancements in the way NPCs just work in the world. And Grand Theft Auto 5 was severely lacking that. In Grand Theft Auto 4, as much as I praise it, I mean, it is a product of its time, even though those physics are still incredible. And the world does feel alive, but it's not as alive as Red Dead Redemption 2. So Grand Theft Auto 6 is just going to be nuts. But the reaction of the NPCs,
the reason why they got timed out, usually they get a warning. I'm not sure why they didn't get a warning this time. But the reason why is because there's no religion or politics in the chat. Politics, unless it has something to do with video games. But yeah.
They're going to be informed by the history of what's happened to them. Fear, aggression. They might immediately call the cops if they see you again. Be like, oh no, you robbed me last time. That's the guy. Stuff like that. And the leaked development footage from 2022 showed UI elements that support this, including witness prompts and police dispatch timers. And of course, speaking of witnesses, I've talked about this a lot recently, but it does seem that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to modernize Red Dead 2's witness system. In Red Dead 2, if you committed a crime and someone witnessed it, they physically run to find a lawman and report it. You could chase them down and stop them, of course, or talk to them. But in Grand Theft Auto 6, skeptics, witnesses, they're going to have smartphones. So you're not going to be getting away with the stuff you're getting away with. No tying up nuns and putting them on railroad tracks with no one noticing anymore, guys. The 2022 leak footage showed a yellow indicator system when a witness sees basically you commit a
And you can spread that gospel somewhere else. Feel free. I have no ill will towards you doing that. But the rules are no religion or politics in the chat.
crime, this yellow icon appears. If it's flickering, you still have time to threaten them or flee before they report it. If it turns red, they're actively calling the police
Unless
or
it has to do
escaping,
with
and the
gaming.
information is already being relayed. Now, this was all alpha footage, so how it is implemented in the final game, who knows? But what makes this really cool and interesting is the potential social media element too. Multiple scenes in the official trailers, of course, show NPCs recording events on their phones. The entire aesthetic of Trailer 1 was structured like a social media feed. And a lot of it was flavor, but also it's pointing out the social media integration that's going to be in the game. And think about how the witness system will work with people whipping out their phones, putting you on whatever the game's equivalent of Instagram is, or like Life Invader. NPCs are going to film your crimes, and that footage could go viral in the game. And maybe then there's a notoriety system, and your notoriety starts to spread. Police responses could become
That'd be
more
fucking
aggressive.
cool
Other
if you,
NPCs
if you go on a rampage and then your shit goes viral. I would love that shit. That would be really cool.
might recognize you from viral videos. And I should have said this earlier because right now we're getting into speculation based off of the things that we've seen. Take a lot of this with salt. Now, am I pretty much 100% confident this is what we're going to see? Yeah, but I can't predict the future. So I just want to be 100% transparent with you on that. But let's get into traffic and driving AI, because that is where you're going to probably see the biggest improvement, just given how much time you spend driving in Grand Theft Auto games. And this should be a massive improvement. The navigation patent describes how NPC vehicles will behave in ways that actually make sense. Current games struggle with traffic because NPCs only check each individual frame for obstacles in their immediate vicinity. They don't really have a memory of previous areas they've been and understanding, they have no context of what's happening around their immediate space, which is why you get some wacky traffic stuff in older Grand Theft Auto titles, or even games like Cyberpunk. And that's why you see NPCs in GTA 5 drive directly into you, even though I swear that that is intentional. A lot of that stuff that causes car pileups that wasn't meant to happen, as funny as it is and as awesome as it is, you can still expect all of that stuff, just expect it to be believable and to look more realistic and to happen more naturally. Grand Theft Auto 6's system gives NPCs spatial awareness and memory to some extent, at least enough to make context-based decisions on what is going on around them. They'll consider multiple factors simultaneously.
Jax.
And you've heard me talk specifically about this before, because this is going to be a huge improvement. Just, I don't know, it's so cool to me thinking about NPCs being on the road, making all these decisions and stuff like that. I cannot wait to drive and see how that plays out. And there's this frame here in the trailer in first person in the car where you see, there's a plane going overhead, there's these guys in the bed of a truck, and I think this is it, guys. I think this is the gameplay. I think we're seeing it right here in real time. This is the kind of stuff you're going to be seeing on the roads. Traffic jams will create authentic behavior, NPCs taking detours while others waited out, accidents.
Oh, perfect. Now LA people can take out their anger on traffic jams in a game. I can't imagine that people aren't going to go crazy doing that.
This will cause realistic slowdowns and congestion. Imagine getting stuck in like gridlock traffic and people start getting out of their vehicles and saying like, hey, what's the holdup? Stuff like that. I don't know how deep it's going to go, guys, but the road should be a lot more interesting, because think about it. They know how much time you spend on the road in a Grand Theft Auto game. And they know how repetitive it.
I think the most likely scenario is that it's good, it's just not as good like as Red Dead Redemption 2 or Grand Theft Auto 4 or something like that. Like, I think that's what's more than likely is going to happen. It's good, but it's not the best Grand Theft Auto.
It gets driving places, and the old ways of doing things where NPCs are wacky and run into streetlights and cause car pileups completely randomly, that was a product of its time. It was fun and cool then. Now there's going to be a lot more almost kind of emergent storytelling, emergent gameplay that comes just from how the NPCs interact with the environment, with just this little bit of context, just this little bit of memory that they have working. Even if it's not like a permanent memory, don't think of it like that, but more just a temporary memory to make realistic context-based situations in a given amount of time that you would realistically spend around someone out in the open world, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm saying? And here's something really cool. The game can now apparently handle way more NPCs compared to previous games that topped out at around 50 to 100 intelligent NPCs before performance degraded. So now let's move into strongly speculated territory. And man, this is always my favorite. You know, speculation based on credible technical analysis and the Leak 2022 developmental footage. You know, so it's speculation, but it's based in reality. It's not my space video, just saying. But anyways, apparently, according to the Leak 2022 footage that Rockstar definitely confirmed was real, especially taking it down and stuff, apparently it showed 1,300 unique world events in the game files compared to about 60 in Grand Theft Auto 5. World events are those random encounters where people kind of come up to you, maybe get bit by a snake or like, hey, mister, you know, that kind of stuff. Maybe even just people performing on the streets or arguments between NPCs you can overhear, car accidents, crimes, and sometimes they turn into missions, full-blown missions. 1,300? I don't know. We'll see. But with the budget, I don't know. Anything's possible. The footage also showed extensive NPC interaction options. Now, this is some of the stuff I did see. You'll be able to threaten NPCs, rob them, zip tie them, melee them, and interact with them in multiple ways depending on the context, just like in Red Dead Redemption 2, just expanded on. There were weapon wheels split into different sections for weapons, equipment, and gear. I talked about this recently in my weapon system video. There were systems for reviving yourself after taking heavy damage, similar to how you could revive your horse in Red Dead Redemption 2. How I imagine that is basically Jason or Lucia could be downed and the other one could pick the other up. In Grand Theft Auto 5, yeah, there were 3 different protagonists or whatever, but there wasn't really that teamwork feeling in most of the missions. It was just kind of like they're there as set dressing and you can switch over to one. And really there is only a couple of linear paths you could take with them. So there wasn't a lot of choice. It seems this time they're going really hard on the whole teamwork aspect between Jason and Lucia, kind of an army of 2 approach. And the police system is of course getting a complete overhaul as well. Instead of constantly spawning cops who just throw themselves at you and magically know where you are, Grand Theft Auto 6 seems to implement response times and investigation mechanics. Now, I did have to put this in the heavy speculated stuff because this is stuff we saw in the leaks, but there's a lot of conclusions being drawn from it based on what we saw on how the police systems will work. If you watch the Hank's Waffle Heist stuff, like in the leaked footage, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Hey, Spellcaster, how you doing?
Witnesses will provide descriptions of your clothes, your vehicle, your direction of travel. Police are going to have to piece together information before they can effectively hunt you. The speculation is that you'll be able to evade them by breaking line of sight, changing vehicles, switching outfits, or laying low in crowds or interiors. Kind of sounds like Assassin's Creed, except I don't think you're going to be praying. But changing your car won't work if witnesses have a good description of you personally. The leaked footage also showed CCTV cameras with detection cones, and that reminds me of Cyberpunk. So there's kind of a digital witness system element here going on, with security cameras in certain areas recording crimes. And this just adds another layer of complexity on how you could get caught, on how you need to plan your escapes, because it's fun planning out how you're going to accomplish whatever goal it is that you're trying to accomplish in these games. And now it sounds like you're gonna have to really plan out how you're gonna rob something or complete an objective. And that's really freaking cool. Okay, so let's get into just complete bonkers territory. Tinfoil hat time. Let's do it. This is where we need to be really clear about sources because this is Reddit stuff, okay? So there was a Reddit post from a user named BreadfruitIC5141 who claimed to have worked on Grand Theft Auto 6, and their account has since been deleted. But according to that post from them, NPCs in Grand Theft Auto 6 will have actual schedules. The same NPC you see at the beach in a bathing suit on Saturday afternoon will be spotted in a suit and tie during the weekdays. I don't know about all that, but we'll see. City traffic will be heavier during morning rush hour around 5 p.m. on weekdays. The post also claimed that major events like concerts, sporting events even, and conventions will dynamically change NPC population density around Vice City. When there's a big concert downtown, for example, that area is supposed to get flooded with NPCs wearing branded merchandise for that event. And think like Love Fist, like them coming in, who knows, maybe Love Fist is doing a reunion tour. Tourists are going to have appropriate gear or whatever's happening in the city. So I want to be crystal clear. This came from a deleted Reddit account and there's no way to verify those claims. It could be real insider info. It could just be educated speculation based on patents and trailers, kind of like what we do here. It could just be complete fiction and gobbledygook. Who knows? We don't know. But it's been widely discussed in the community because it fits with everything else we're seeing about Rockstar's ambition for this game. There's also speculation that social media will be a core mechanic beyond just that witness system. Beyond the whole notoriety thing, the idea is that you could engage with the game in social media platforms, maybe even post your own clips, edit highlights. So kind of like the Rockstar editor might even be built into this. And maybe not only could you share these kinds of clips online with people and stuff like that, and that'll kind of go more into the Grand Theft Auto Online element, but maybe in the game itself, you could build a following within in the game world. Your criminal activity could make you infamous, with NPCs recognizing you as that guy who robbed the stadium on live stream. And while that might sound ridiculous, this is the world of Grand Theft Auto, so hey, everything's on the table. Rival gangs might taunt you in the comment section, like an in-game post. Can you imagine that? It's a fascinating concept, and I think it would tie together the satire that Rockstar is known for with actual gameplay consequences, so that could be a really cool, clever blend of tying everything together, I think. And some analysts believe we'll see live events in the game inspired by Fortnite's success with virtual concerts. So imagine like you're attending an in-game concert in a Vice City venue, you know, maybe Love Fist or something like that, but maybe real artists as well. Think about what they did with Dr. Dre in Grand Theft Auto 5 Online. Rockstar's not scared to make business deals with musicians. Think about it. They have all these songs and licenses in their game, and it could be extremely lucrative for them to stay relevant, bringing modern artists in to do performances on stage in game. This kind of reminds me of Grand Theft Auto 4, where you had like Ricky Gervais and Cat Williams and stuff like that come and actually do live stand-up. It was really freaking cool. Imagine thousands of NPCs in attendance functioning as both a social space and potentially a setting for missions or anything, maybe throwing a hand grenade into their concert. Who knows? Musicians like Drake, DJ Khaled, whatever. Him, I know he's really popular, but others, and they've been speculated to be connected to Grand Theft Auto 6's soundtrack and music scene, though nothing is confirmed beyond a few licensed tracks in the trailers and the fact that Drake texted Millie Bobby Brown before she turned 18. Just saying. Okay, anyways, moving on. The police system speculation gets even wilder. People are talking about 6-star wanted levels potentially returning, and man, I sure hope they do because they were really fun, but at the same time, I don't know, it's looking like Noose is gonna whoop our butts, so do we really want the military on us in this game? Of course we do, right? The more the better. If you got what it takes to get there, why not, right? Steal a Rhino tank, blow stuff up. Who knows, man? Who knows? But again, this kind of stuff, we're in the theoretical territory now, just based off of stuff. Just little crumbs here, rubbing them together, trying to make cake out of them, you know? But K9 units, drones for surveillance, armored vehicles for high wanted levels, riot shields, tear gas for crowd control, tactical perimeters and flanking maneuvers. I mean, why not? With the budget and how much money this freaking game's gonna make. If it ain't there at launch, I think we're gonna see stuff like this eventually in Grand Theft Auto Online and then bleed into single player. Again, we'll see. This is just what people are thinking. And with all the stuff I just said, it's basically like police will act more like actual tactical units instead of mindlessly rushing at you. And I don't even know why I put that in this wildly speculated thing. I guess because it bleeds so much into so many different areas of what's confirmed to just absolute bonkers ideas. I mean, the police are a huge part of the game. Weather is another big part of the game. The patents mention NPCs responding to weather conditions, and people are speculating this goes beyond just driving slower in rain or sliding around, like that stupid racing mission in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas I kept failing over and over and over again. Good God, that mission drove me nuts. And
there's some missions in Grand Theft Auto that a lot of people are like, oh, it took me forever to beat that mission. Either I was on another level when I was a kid, but a lot of those missions were really easy. The one that was really hard for me is the one where you have to be in the turret, and blow up all the RC planes that are coming. The RC plane level was super easy for me. The one where you have to fly one and assassinate people with the RC thingamajiggy. That one was super easy. But the one that people didn't have trouble with is the one I had trouble with.
toy RC mission stuff. Oh my God. It was fun, but good God, it was hard with those controls. Anyways, I digress. So in this game, I would expect NPCs to be seeking shelter during storms. That's been speculated. NPCs, we're going to see them with umbrellas. Maybe they change their clothing choice based on the forecast. I mean, that does not surprise me. The Florida setting, Vice City, makes weather particularly relevant with tropical storms, heat waves, and humidity all playing a part of the environment. And if you look at these screenshots and just see the way people look and how the environment has impacted their bodies, well, and alcohol consumption, it does kind of give us a good idea on just how far in depth they're going with these systems. NPCs are probably going to be reacting to your appearance. You're covered in blood or wearing dirty, torn clothes. NPCs are going to comment on it, avoid you. Well, I wonder if they'll call the police too. Like if you're covered in blood, if you're dressed well, you might get compliments or different treatment in certain establishments. It kind of reminds me of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas' sex appeal system. And this game does seem to hint at those RPG systems that we saw in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas returning to some extent. And this was hinted at in some job listings Rockstar posted for dialogue writers mentioning contextual NPC reactions. patents. Here's what we can say with confidence. Rockstar is definitely building something they've never built before with their NPC systems. They are, okay? That we know for sure. The official patents prove they've developed new technology specifically to make NPCs smarter. And to the people who are like, well, those are just patents, bro. Why do you think they're doing these patents and spending all this time and money with them if they're not going to use them in their games? I mean, it's silly to just say that. What are you on about? But anyways, yes, of course they're just patents, bro, because they're going to use those patents, the information, the technology that they're patenting to implement this stuff into their game. Duh. Behaviors, they're going to be more diverse, more believable. These NPCs are going to be actual inhabitants of what feels like a true living world. The trailers show the visual results, man. I mean, look at it. The crowds look genuinely alive. NPCs engaged in activities, it all makes sense. Everything you look at, it's dense, and there's so much variety like we've never seen before. And Red Dead Redemption 2 was the rocket that got us here on the moon, and now we're going to Mars. So think about how the NPCs were in that game. They felt real. They felt like real people with routines, memories, and personalities. And now Grand Theft Auto 6 is taking those lessons and building on them with modern technology in a contemporary setting with smartphones and social media everywhere, and patents that describe AI systems more sophisticated than anything currently in gaming. Will every speculation pan out? Probably not. Game development rolls like that. You have a bunch of stuff in the game and you
You can't
Thank you.
win them all, right?
Why am I doing this?
For even the best developers out there, the shining examples to all others screw up from time to time. But the reason that doesn't matter is because they get it. They learn from their mistakes and, for lack of a better word, develop. This is not how all games go. Sometimes the people around a failure just have no friggin' clue why the hell it didn't sell gangbusters. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and we're going to talk about that today on Game Ranks. Today it's 10 games that are clueless why they didn't sell. Starting off with number 10, it's Dragon Age: The Veilguard. This one's going to blow your minds.
What
just
the fuck?
stick with me for a second. Nearly 10
That's
years
so
in
random.
the oven. Hot off of the heels of the Anthem disaster,
Burned
some call it
a video
BioWare's
in my
Chernobyl. The newest Dragon Age game
channel if
was
you wanna
going
know
to be
how.
fighting an uphill battle for sales no matter how good it was. Then, that first big trailer dropped, and it came off like it was intentionally trying to be off-putting. The game got okay reviews, and I'm not here to tell you it's the worst game of all time. I know some people love doing that, but we're realists here. None of us think it's a good game, but this is a game that does not hold up. And there's a lot of reasons it didn't work, but you gotta hear what EA CEO Andrew Wilson said in the Q3 2025. This is recent, folks. Their earnings call, he said the problem with Dragon Age: The Veilguard was that the game was not aligning with players who prioritize shared world features. Basically, he's saying the game wasn't a live service, so people didn't buy
Oh,
it,
yeah,
which
that's
is
totally right.
absolutely asinine. This game was originally going to be a live service game, and they pivoted away from it mid-development because Anthem was a live service game that people hated because it was a live service game. Part of the reason people don't like the Veilguard is because there's a lot of stuff in it that still feels like a live service game. I think this is a good time to bring up the Ampere Analysis survey with an absolutely absurd sample size, 30,000 gamers in different markets from different demographics. The vast majority of gamers prefer single-player games, and it has grown over the last
What?
several years. And again, people didn't like it because BioWare was not given a lot of time to pivot away from the original live service plans and had to scramble to make necessary changes, and that's why the entire structure of this game essentially feels like a live service game, because it was. And that's why people don't like it. So this excuse from EA's CEO
No
is just
wonder.
bonkers. Nobody wanted a Dragon Age live service game. It was a terrible idea from the beginning, and EA should
No wonder I didn't like Dragon Age. No fucking wonder I didn't like it.
have already known that a BioWare live service game probably wasn't going to work out. Why did they think it would work a second time? Oh yeah, because it had already been in development for 10 years. Whoever had the sense to say this should not be a live service game should be absolutely lauded. They should not have even released this game until they had completely changed it into a single-player experience that was satisfying to play. This is part of the reason why I always, even though I will denigrate this game, I will call it a bad game, I don't enjoy it, it's not a fun game. It could have been worse. and it's not the worst thing. Honestly, the nonsense these executives spout during these earnings calls should generally be ignored. I don't know if this executive even believes the horse shit that people didn't buy it because it wasn't live service. But that's dumb. It's also dumb that, like, we got such a bad version of Dragon Age. Dragon Age should be good. Like, it really shouldn't be that hard to do, especially we live in a post-Witcher 3 world. Why is Dragon Age a difficult thing to do? You know what's not hard to do? Subscribing to GameRanks, which surprisingly few of the people watching have done. I mean, not only does it help us out, which we appreciate massively, but it helps you see some stuff you want to see. At least we hope it does. So thanks a lot for clicking subscribe. Let's move on. At number 9, the day before, with the devs blaming the hate campaign. You know, the day before, the at one time most wishlisted.
I can't believe anybody wishlisted this game. When I saw it, I was like, this is a really cool concept. And then I looked up the devs that were working on this game. It was quite obvious that it was a scam. Like, it was a straight up scam. Like, the only way that it would be more obvious that it was a scam is if they put a billboard up in the game that said scam. That's how obvious it was.
Game on Steam. Tons of excitement, tons of hype, some sane voices of skepticism, still way more uncritical enthusiasm than there should have been. When the game finally launched in an incomplete and incredibly broken state, people were, to say the least, angry. The backlash against the game was immediate and extreme, but you also couldn't say that the developers didn't ask for it. They had to have known what they were doing with all of those very misleading pre-release trailers. The game was a disaster at launch. It was an empty and awful game that people were very correct in being mad about. The developers, for their part, cut and run 4 days after it came out, only for someone to resurface on Twitter claiming the real reason the day before failed was because of some vague hate campaign perpetuated by certain blogs. I don't know what they're talking about or why they decided to reappear a year after the game's colossal failure and upload an incoherent screed on their socials. I am not here to make sense of their actions. I am here to tell you their actions. Their actions are incoherent, as are their words. I mean, here's a sentence to chew on. Remember the experiment where you're asked to count pink objects in a room, then recall the blue ones? You don't remember any. It's all about focus. What? What experiment is that? What the hell are you trying to say? At number 8 is Balan Wonderworld. Listen, there's going to be a lot of head scratchers on here, such as the nature of disgruntled game developers going off the cuff. They're going to say some weird stuff, and this example from Sonic's co-creator and known felon, Yuji Naka, is one of the most baffling. I mean, Balan Wonderworld is one of the most bizarre and baffling games out there, and by any measure, it's a failure. It apparently sold less than 2,100 copies in Japan, did not fare much better in the UK or US, not even breaking the top 40 in the week it came out. It's unusual for game makers to start pointing fingers when something bombs this bad, but what's unusual here is that it's coming from a Japanese game dev, which is, I mean, they're usually even more tight-lipped about the behind-the-scenes blowouts of things. I mean, we still don't know exactly what happened at Konami, for instance. Yuji Naka's always been an outspoken guy, though, and the circumstances surrounding him being removed as director of Balan Wonderworld half a year before the game was released. There's two reasons he cites for why he was removed as director. The second was that he wanted to improve the game while the developers at Arzest wanted to submit. That's the second main reason he was removed as director, which sounds pretty minor, so the first must be bad, right? I'm gonna quote it in its entirely. First, when a YouTuber's arranged piano performance of the game music was released in a promotion instead of the original game soundtrack, turning the composer into a ghostwriter, I insisted the original track be released, and this caused trouble. Did you parse that? He's saying that Square Enix used a fan-created version of a game song as part of a promotion, and he wanted the actual composer to get credited. Apparently, it was just too much for the company, and they had to axe him. Normally, I'd be first in line to side with the developer over a publisher, especially when it's tenured as Yuji Naka, but none of this makes any sense. It doesn't hold weight. The actual reason he is removed probably has something to do with him later getting convicted for insider trading while he was at Square Enix. I have to imagine an investigator talked to somebody at some point long before any conviction happened, and I would imagine that would sour things. And number 7, Artifact. Valve's answer to Hearthstone failed because of a lack of short-term goals. It was one of the rare misfires from the house that Steam built. Extremely ambitious, had a celebrity game designer, Richard Garfield, the guy behind Magic the Gathering. It was a card game with a bunch of big ideas, but
how do you
really
fuck
come
that
together.
up?
Sometimes
the guy who created Magic the Gathering is legit. Probably a genius for making Magic the Gathering what it is. Granted, there were other people in the future that made Magic the Gathering like really good. It wasn't just him. The current guy that's running it right now, he's probably the reason why Magic the Gathering is still relevant in terms of mechanics. Say what you want about the greed, but mechanic wise,
it seems like everything's working for a game, like they've got all the right people behind it, they have near infinite resources, but it can still fail. If a game isn't fun, people aren't going to play it, at least not for very long. And that seems to be the consensus among everyone who bothered to play Artifact. Most came in wanting to like it, but it wasn't well designed, and that's that. According to the game's developer, though, that's not the problem. He doesn't think pay to win was the problem either. He thinks the game design was good. He just thinks the game was hurt by apparently a lack of short-term goals like missions or achievements. He mentions review bombing as well, but of course doesn't get into any specifics there. Just because people don't like your game, it doesn't mean it's review bombing. Not every bad game is the victim of getting review bombed. In fact, I don't recall Artifact being controversial even. And that's really the only explanation he gives for why he thinks the game failed. He had nothing but good things to say about it other than that. Apparently, if they threw in dailies, the game just would have been perfect. I mean, he is the game designer, so of course he thinks the game design was good, but really it wasn't. Thinking otherwise shows a pretty staggering lack of self-awareness, too. Kind of clueless self-confidence that leads to games like Artifact, which are over-engineered, boring, and unsatisfying. And number 6 is Overkill's The Walking Dead. When game makers start playing this lame game, the funniest statements are always the ones we weren't necessarily meant to see. The situation at Grin or Overkill or Starbreeze or whatever this company is called today, I don't know, it doesn't matter. There's a big contributor to the chaos, though, and his name is Bo Anderson. He's a former CEO. He's another guy connected to insider trading, if you've paid any attention. In this instance, however, he managed to beat the allegation. Someone else in Starbreeze took the fall on that one. Before making the disaster that is Payday 3, they made The Walking Dead, which is much more of a mess than Payday 3, actually. The reception of the game was so bad that during his time as CEO, Bo Anderson sent out an angry email to staff where he said basically it's everyone else's fault and not his that the game turned out to be terrible. I know I'm quoting too much stuff here, but this really needs to be seen in full. After going all woe is me, saying he sacrificed everything for the studio to keep everyone paid, he continued by saying this, with less and less developers willing to put in the extra care in a product that clearly limits the possible result of enough quality in time. This is a new era, and I did not leave the old one and adapt in time. My fault. It's okay. It's new time. It's kind of hard to even understand what he's even saying. It's basically just a terrible reverse apology where he blames everyone but himself for screwing up, as if he's just another guy down in the trenches with everybody else, not the literal CEO of the frickin' company. There's not even any point, just a random internal email where he's just berating his staff in what I might add is a really stupid and embarrassing way. And number 5 is Afro Samurai 2. People just didn't like it. 2015's Afro Samurai 2, The Revenge of Kuma. It's one of the worst reviewed games of the year. And it's still actually considered one of the worst games of all time. It is dreadful. But according to the general manager of Versus Evil, the studio made the game, it wasn't that Afro Samurai 2 was a barely functioning mess. It's just that people didn't like it. This is a full quote, just so you don't think I'm putting any words in anybody's mouths. If you look at the reviews, it wasn't that the game was broken or buggy. People just didn't like it. Verbatim. I do not know what reviews this person was reading, because the top review on Metacritic says the gameplay is basically broken and that it is technically abysmal. That doesn't sound like people not liking it. It sounds like they have specific complaints about the technical quality of the game. Another quote, the game's quality was not what people were expecting. A bizarre, understated claim. Are you saying that people should expect games to not work properly? And, when they have that correct expectation, then they like games. Like, I don't understand. I don't want to rag on this guy too much because they did offer refunds for customers. So even if their stated reasons for why the game failed sound silly, at least they try to make things right. And number 4, it's Splitgate 2. We've seen plenty of blame get thrown around already, but it's either directed at vague review bombings or bloggers or occasionally the entire development staff. But this entry is unique because an entire dev team getting blamed for the game's failure is the norm. But here, they're calling out a single specific guy. The boss of Splitgate 2 developer 1047 Games seemed to be on a one-man mission to completely tank any excitement people could have had for his shooter sequel with this idiotic...
How this one guy messed up the entire launch of this game that people, A, were excited for when it came to the first one, and B, were really looking forward to the second one, and it looked really good. It had, like, a lot of people excited. How this idiot came out and fucked up the entire campaign by opening his mouth is world record breaking.
Attention-grabbing stunts that he just kept doing. It was embarrassing. And these rambling showings at SGF, he looked like a desperately unprofessional dunce. So, of course, when Splitgate 2 floundered at launch and the time to point fingers came, the guy does the most tone-deaf thing possible and directly blames a former developer for why the game failed. Well, not specifically about the failure. The call-out came in response to fan criticisms over the game's $80 launch bundle, which many correctly stated was overpriced for what you're getting. It's a bad deal, but instead of own up, simply apologize, you know, that kind of thing. The guy specifically called out a former employee by name and blamed him for the price. He also made sure to tell everybody the guy was already gone for the company, so, I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about him anymore. And also, he worked on Call of Duty previously, because Call of Duty is a soulless and terrible thing, which, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not defending the bad Call of Duties, but as a whole, Call of Duty is fine. Or was fine, I don't know.
I think that one was dying.
But I guess it was meant to make it seem like the 1047 boss is a cool guy who wasn't responsible for the price mistake. Because, you know, developers set prices for games, right? It made this guy look like a clueless dickhead. You seriously expect us to believe you didn't know about the pricing of your game? Like, trying to...
That's the first time I've ever heard GamerRanks curse in one of his thingamajigs. That's how you know he was
blame for the
upset.
Price of a game onto one developer is insane. Unsurprisingly, this did not change the future of the game at all. It's currently being heavily reworked, but I have a hard time believing it'll get more attention when Splitgate 2 finally resurfaces. No. And number 3, Duke Nukem Forever. It wasn't reviewed fairly. I know what you're thinking here. Our old buddy Randy Pitchford said something stupid. Wow, that's never happened before. What the heck? It's actually a Gearbox quote that is not from Pitchford. This is from Brian Martell, the co-founder. In response to the overwhelmingly negative reviews on Duke Nukem Forever received at launch, he said, "We wish the reviews were a little less caustic. We're not quite sure where some of the anger came from. Normally, I'd understand the developer being defensive about their game, but Duke wasn't really their game at all. They bought it from 3D Realms, Frankenstein what they could to finish it. Like, it's less of a game and more of a historical artifact, and I guess they expected the game to be judged like that rather than as the highly anticipated follow-up to Duke Nukem 3D that it, was." He further elaborated on his thoughts, saying, "Forever was what it was meant to be, a more old-school style game in today's technology," which is not true, no matter how you look at it. The game's visuals felt woefully out of date for 2011, and the gameplay was decidedly not old school. It was weirdly trying to be a modern FPS and failed miserably at it. You can't just put in a 2-weapon limit at release and pretend the game is actually old school. That people aren't that stupid.
Two-weapon limit? What is this, 1995?
And number 2, Mind's Eye. Oh, Mind's Eye. I gotta give it to Builder Rocket Boys, Leslie Benzies, formerly of Rockstar. Actually a living legend, because his excuse is unique, lives up to legendary status. It's deranged, pretty paranoid. It's unique. During a video chat addressing staff on July 2nd, which was, I assume, meant to reassure people in the face of impending layoffs at the dismal failure of Mind's Eye, the boss man said in so many words that internal and external saboteurs were torpedoing the game. By external saboteurs, I'm sure he's implying that for whatever reason, Rockstar is running some kind of secret disinformation campaign for the express purpose of tanking Mind's Eye, because they're just that evil and vindictive. It's wild, because it's not even the first time this claim has been made. The studio's co-CEO, Mark Gerard, also implied the same thing.
Keep in mind, this game came out in this year. Like, it's still 2025. This game came out this year, and it was one of the worst games ever.
Saying there was a conceited effort to trash the game and the...
Not to mention that it was being led by somebody who used to make Rockstar Grand Theft Auto games. So you'd think that it would be really good, but it was pretty much a cash grab.
Studio by heavily implying that Rockstar, I guess, does that sort of thing. Keep in mind, Benzie's original statement said both internal and external, so he's implying there are people within the studio that are also secretly trying to ruin the game, which is definitely something people want to hear when they're worried about losing their jobs. Did it ever cross their mind's eye that maybe Mind's Eye is a bad game, and that's all there is to it? No, it's Rockstar waging a secret campaign, sabotage. That's the only reason somebody might not like the masterpiece that is the barely finished Mind's Eye.
Lost another! Get a medic!
I had high hopes for this game, I'm not gonna lie to you.
And finally, at number 1, Ship of Heroes, the long-gestating City of Heroes follow-up, which released on Steam near the end of September, and things have not been going too hot for it. Like with a lot of these overly ambitious fan projects, it was crushed under the weight of its absurd ambitions, petty dramas of its creators. Mostly, it just looks bad. It's overpriced, and I guess they actually expect players to fork over $15 for a monthly subscription to a single game in 2025. For the most part, it was basically ignored. There's barely any reviews for it, and the Steam charts suggest its all-time peak is 100 players. You can't really blame review bombing on a game that has 89 reviews total. I mean, a coordinated review bombing thing generally has more than 89 legitimate reviews mixed in there. It's because people care enough to coordinate that I don't know why I'm explaining this. It's a dumb excuse. It's what the game's community manager has been doing all over the game's dedicated Steam forum, just making this bad excuse. They've got an overly aggressive attitude, and it's bizarre given how much this game is struggling. You can't pretend like you don't care one way or the other if people are buying your game when like 100 people is the max number of people that bothered giving it a shot at its peak. Their posts are many and bizarre, but this one is one of the funniest, where they first attempt to explain what a review bomb is, just as I tried to do a moment ago, before stating they have to reset their Steam forum due to review bomb trolls swamping the Steam forum with negativity. That seems to be their stance on the game's failure to launch. It wasn't that the trailer made it look hideous and that the original asking price of $60 is crazy. It's that the trolls were out to get them, even though the game barely got any reviews. I was explaining an aspect of review bombing that just makes the fact that more than 89 reviews has to like, you can't review bomb. It's not a review bomb at that point. It's like some kids doing Ding Dong Ditch or something, and that's only if those 89 reviews are not legitimate. I would guess they probably are, and that what happened is very few people played it and they didn't like it. 89 reviews is not controversy. It is not a large coordinated campaign. If there is coordination, it's barely above Lover's Quarrel in terms of severity, okay? Like, it's kind of hard not to feel bad for this guy. Like, he's fighting an imaginary war with imaginary trolls over a game that just people don't care about. Often you get cathartic humor with this kind of thing, like with EA or Gearbox justifying their thing in a totally non-self-aware way, but this is kind of sad. It was somebody's passion project, and it was met with utter indifference, and somehow the guy took that here. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do
Thank
so.
you,
We
Hush.
upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. Become a member of the 1% Club and listen to The Falcon Show. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
Let's see what else we can watch.
The video game industry is rapidly changing in 2025. We're seeing it happen in real time with these mass layoffs at major publishers like Microsoft. Entire studios at giant companies are shutting down. Amazon essentially shuttered their video game division. The AAA video game industry, it's at a crossroads. No one knows exactly how to move forward. And unfortunately, single-player games have become very low priority for a lot of developers, and I think we need to talk about why. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, that's what we're going to do. We're asking the question, why do AAA publishers hate single-player games? The video game industry is exactly that. It's an industry that produces over $50 billion in annual revenue, but growth has stalled since 2021. Games are still making a truly absurd amount of money, but the attention economy is fickle, and publishers want more than your $70. They want your money forever. Every company looks at financial successes like Fortnite.
Happy New Year. What are my thoughts on 2026 in terms of what? Like, what do you mean by my thoughts? That could mean a lot of things.
And rules. These people want a piece of that very, very big pie. If you're a business executive, you see Fortnite's estimated $3 billion per year, and you think to yourself,
Look what I found in my pocket! Look!
how hard could it be to copy their success? But we've seen time and time again that the live service model comes with a host of unforeseen challenges. Single-player games might be really difficult to make and require years of expensive development time, but it's also really safe compared to the muddy waters of live service. It seems like a no-brainer to develop games that are guaranteed to be profitable, but to a big publisher, even a successful single-player game doesn't bring in enough revenue. A game you can purchase and play can never compare to a forever game like Fortnite. Everyone wants a piece of Fortnite. And nothing against Fortnite. Fortnite, Roblox, and to a lesser extent, even the Steam platform are all examples of what big publishers truly want. They don't want to make games. They want to buy a spot in the video game market where they can sit and collect rent forever. It's real estate, baby. Not free real estate, though. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim Heidecker.
I'm really looking forward to Grand Theft Auto next year. I know there's a lot of games that are coming out this coming year that I'm really looking forward to. It just kind of slips my mind at the moment. As far as movies, I'm not sure.
But it's not free. Services like Steam are perpetual money machines without the inherent risk of video game development. There's a big reason we haven't seen Half-Life 3. Valve makes too much money. From a monetary perspective, they're interested in diversions like Dota or the Foundry spin-off card game, because those are forever games with infinite cash potential. Like, you only have to build the...
Let's see.
A new year is coming, and that means a new month is coming. And with every new month comes new games. Brand new, big, shiny, potentially very fun new games. And to me, it looks like 2026 might actually start out pretty good. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks, the top 10 biggest new games to look out for in January 2026. Starting at number 10, we've got Code Violet. This is a game that it feels like I've talked about a billion times now. It's been given vague release windows for a long time, and I mean, it still looks cool. Code Violet's got some real Dead Space and Resident Evil looking DNA, but it's a sci-fi horror, so yes, you got the cramped corridors, the limited ammo, resource management, etc., but it's probably more Dead Space than it is Resident Evil. I don't know, it's a little smoother looking than Dead Space, and well, Isaac Clarke doesn't have the donk this protagonist does. And they're capitalizing on it with costumes and whatnot. We're not going to get into that element of it, but if that's something you like in games, you're being catered to here. Beyond that, it actually looks like a pretty cool game. Got some scary monsters, some dinosaurs, or at least dinosaur-looking things. To be frank, it's a cool-looking game. PlayStation Store has it listed as January 9th, actually. In some regions, it says the 10th. My guess is that's when it's going to launch, but I will say Team Kill Media hasn't explicitly said it. So we're going off the PlayStation Store, and the game is a PlayStation 5 exclusive, so we have to assume that they have a good reason to put that as the date when it's this close. So yeah, keep an eye out. Also, if you wouldn't mind doing us a big solid, click the subscribe button. Statistically, you probably haven't yet.
Did I hear that
Most
right?
of you watching are not subscribed, and well, now is as good a time as any. It really is doing us a big solid, and we also hope that it helps you see some stuff you want to see. So thanks a ton for clicking subscribe. Let's get back to the video. So at number 9, we've got The Midnight Walker, is a PC-exclusive zombie survival game that is coming to early access. This is an extraction-based PvPvE shooter, which is, to be clear, there is some controversy that has brewed recently about exactly what an extraction shooter is. A lot of it has to do with the leisurely extractions that have been taking place in recent games. I don't know what that necessarily implies for The Midnight Walkers. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. I do know that it's a pretty aggressively grim-looking game. Given it's an early access game, it's probably going to be a game that evolves from the point that it is released, but it actually does look pretty cool. I don't know, we'll see. That's landing January 29th in early access on PC. And number 8, it's Star Rupture, a new game from the creators of Green Hell that's very different from Green Hell. So this looks to me like Satisfactory, but kind of Dead Space, but also a lot more colorful. Like it's an open world base builder on a hostile alien world with unpredictable weather, you know, obviously lots of aliens, and all of the things that come along with that stuff. You're automating production, you're building defenses, you're fighting off hordes of aliens, and, well, I'm not going to say this couldn't be bad, but to me it looks like it's going to be good. It's got a little of that Savage Planet vibe to it, except for a little bit more grim. Not a lot. I don't know, it takes a lot of influences in terms of its artistic direction, and I think that's really cool. There's also 4-player co-op, and this is an early access game, but the specific reason for early access is apparently they want a heavy focus on community feedback in terms of directing where the game goes. So, I mean, looks cool, and it may get better. I mean, I hope they don't change stuff that actually turns out to be good because players don't like it. I don't know. We'll see. That's happened before. Star Rupture is landing in early access January 6th on PC. And number 7 is The 7 Deadly Sins Origin. Basically, it's The 7 Deadly Sins, which was a manga that started back in 2012. We've been seeing video games since about 2015, and they're going very big with this one. This is a fully open-world action RPG. The combo-heavy, fast combat is about as anime as you can get. You've got the aerial juggling, you've got the elemental effects, boss fights that are clearly...
I really hope it's better than the show.
Meant to be as fun to watch as they are to play, or at least close to. I'm not sure I love the fact that there's a little bit of live service DNA here. Co-op isn't automatically bad or anything, and it kind of depends on how it works. I do think they're kind of going for the Genshin Impact audience, which, aside from a lot of, you know, unavoidable crap, given Genshin Impact is a free game, is a decent game. This is also free to play. That does mean that
I will say, even though it's a gacha game, Genshin Impact is really fun. The only thing that kept me from playing it, it wasn't the gameplay. The gameplay was really, really good. But the thing that kept me from playing it personally was the fact that it just didn't have a good story. And everybody kept telling me, oh, just wait till you get to this part or to this other part where it gets good.
Microtransactions are part of the plan. There's going to be ongoing updates to the story and all
Okay.
that. Like, Netmarble has made it very clear they're going to be aping most of the systems in terms of the live service stuff from Genshin Impact, even if they haven't used those words exactly. Like, they really want this to be a licensed anime competition for Genshin Impact, more or less. And honestly, like, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, we've seen that it can potentially be a good kind of game, this very highly specific version of it, but also those live service elements are not welcome really anywhere. So you gotta weigh what's going on here before you say, I'm gonna, jump into the. It is free to play, to be fair. So, like, it doesn't cost you anything to try it, but still weigh the things. 7 Deadly Sins Origin is launching on PC and PS5 January 28th. And number 6 is Arknights Enfield. Okay, so Arknights is like a mobile tower defense game, and this is a PC and PS5 reimagining of it that basically says, what if we did that, but also a lot more? It's a hybrid of real-time combat, base building, strategy, and obviously tower defense. I mentioned Star World as a little bit satisfactory, or Factorio looking. This also, maybe a little bit less than that game, but to some extent does look like
Which one's the Merryweather heist?
they're going for that. I kind of think that combat and all of that stuff is maybe a little bit bigger of a thing than the actual Factorio type stuff. Like, there's clearly tower defense, but I don't know if it leans in as far as Star Rupture looks like it is into the production side of things. And I think that it's good that we're getting stuff that is trying similar ideas, but clearly going about it differently. That's what it looks like here. Also, this is very clearly an anime-looking game where the other is not. I don't know. It looks like it could be good. I'll say I'm probably a little bit more on the Star Rupture train than I am this one, but if this one turns out to be good, I'm there. Arknights Enfield is coming to PC and PS5 January 22nd.
Is it done?
And number 5 is Mio, or Memories in Orbit.
Is it done?
A frankly very uniquely beautiful Metroidvania that is definitely cashing in on the whole sad robot thing. You're Mio, a small maintenance robot. There's a big decaying space arc that you are exploring, piecing together what happened, etc. Space arc is a key word here. Arc is usually something like, Earth is failing, so we need to send humans off into space. Well, a decaying one, that implies that the humans did not.
I'm not really a big fan of American football, or I watch football, American football, but I'm not a huge fan. I'm more of a baseball, basketball type of guy. And as far as soccer, or European football, I don't like. I've never liked soccer. I could never get into it, to be honest with you. I've always found it boring.
This has perhaps one of the most unique art styles I've ever seen. I love what it's doing. If you see screenshots of it, it really doesn't do it justice. When this thing is moving, it looks entirely unique. So if it is an above average Metroidvania, it's a winner. It's that simple. I think it has everything that it needs to. It's just going to be down to if the execution lands. And I hope it does when it comes out on January 20th for PC, Xbox Series, PS5, and Switch 2. And number 4 is Pathologic 3, continuing the series' proud tradition of intentionally hostile design. You are once again dropped into a plague-ridden town where everyone is lying, everyone is dying, time is your enemy, and every decision feels so wrong despite how correct it might be. And it may be the most correct decision you can make. A lot of survival horror is about fighting monsters. This is more about systems, people, and wearing through your own optimism. Allegedly, this game is going to lean even harder into unreliable narration, which I don't know if you've played Pathologic 1 and 2, but ooh. Anyway, Pathologic 3 is landing on PC January 9th, and if you're part of the highly specific audience that these games have, rejoice. This is going to be cool. I am clearly in that audience, by the way. Climbing up to number 3, we've got Cairn. Basically a survival climbing game. There's no enemies, there's no combat, there's a mountain and gravity. there's gravity as well, and that's what the big deal is. This is a precision physics-based game. You might call it a puzzle game, you might not, I don't know, depending on your perspective. It is an absolutely beautiful, stark-looking game. It's a very different experience. It's very quiet. There is right now a demo available, and I would highly recommend that you try that. It's PC only. The game is coming to PC and PS5.
I really want to play that
The demo
game.
is only on PC, though.
I think I
That being
played the
said,
demo,
I
if not
think it's
mistaken.
probably worth taking a look if you haven't really yet, because it's a super interesting game. It's definitely not your usual fare. It's not quite baby steps per se, but I wouldn't say it's not one of those kind of precision movement type of games. Baby steps is the most frustrating version of it, and intentionally so. This one is much more deliberate and grounded, but it may end up making it more stressful. I don't know. I've only played the demo, but I thought it was a very good demo. Cairn is landing on PC and PS5 January 29th. And number 2, another Code game. It's Code Vein 2, the follow-up to the original Code Vein,
Yeah.
aka Anime Dark Souls. Seems like for whatever
I have
reason,
the
if you
Game
put
Geek. I
Code
haven't
in the
played it.
title,
I need to
there's
play
going to be
it.
women with large body parts somewhere on them, whether up high or down low. That seems to be the lesson to take away from this. Other than Code Vein is a good game. It's a good Souls-like. Obviously, a sequel is a no-brainer. It was successful. People liked it. Clearly, they've taken that money and reinvested into it like, oh, we're going way bigger this time. Like, if the first one was Souls for anime fans, this one is much louder Souls for anime fans. I don't know if there's more to say. If you didn't like the first Code Vein 2 probably, I mean, it really doesn't look like something that's going to make you like Code Vein. But I liked it, so I'm in. Code Vein 2 is landing on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series January 30th. And finally, at number 1, it is Hytale. This is a game that has been in coming soon purgatory so long that I'm just gonna say it's folklore. Okay, that's what this is. It's folklore that is coming to life. I'm sorry if that was a bit dramatic. In 2018, somebody said there should be Minecraft, but an actual RPG. And honestly, like, that's still a pitch that gets me interested. I'm not gonna lie. And that's what this looks like it is. It's a little bit more detailed than Minecraft, obviously. It does bring you the voxel-based sandbox building stuff, but you've got much more structured progression, dungeons, quests, boss fights, etc. And honestly, it's kind of crazy that it's coming out. It looks like Minecraft. So, like, don't pretend that this is amazing looking. But in certain ways, it does look like advanced Minecraft. Like, it's got some very pretty trees. Boss enemies look pretty cool, actually. But it does retain somewhat of a lo-fi aesthetic, not necessarily going for realistic or highly polished. I don't know. It looks cool. Hytale is going to land on
this
PC
video is 7
only
days old,
in
so-
early access on January 13th.
Unless it got
I do
canceled
have some
recently.
bonus games for you as well. And keep in mind, the first one I'm going to mention, I don't know, I can't confirm anything, but we have some very possible leaks that indicate Prince of Persia: The Sands of Times remake is going to come out sometime during the month. Now, we do not know. I am not claiming this, but if it happens, I want to mention it because it's going to be a big deal. If they do it, they're kind of pulling a full-ass Oblivion with this thing, which I'm perfectly okay with. I want Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake. Like, please give us that. We do know it's coming out on pretty much everything: PC, the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, but we don't know if it's actually coming out. So cross your fingers. All Falcon wants it. Let's bring some of that New Year's magic to real this time, eh? Next, let's talk about Highguard, a gritty medieval action RPG without a lot of mainstream buzz, but I don't know. It looks like something that might be able to carve out a niche. It's a pretty specific looking game. Highguard's coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series on January 26th. Next is Animal Crossing New Horizons, the Nintendo Switch 2 edition. They're doing a next-gen refresh of this game. I don't really know if they're doing a lot in terms of, like, refreshing the character models or the visuals or anything. It's gonna perform better, though. Pretty much anything that came out on Switch
Thank you,
is being
Chevy Johnson.
re-released on Switch 2. I guarantee the reason that's happening is because the Switch 2 is a significantly more powerful piece of hardware that can run that crap way better. And finally, I've got Vampires Blood Lord Rising, an indie vampire RPG. that is promising to be progression heavy. So that sounds cool. There have not been a lot of details on this one, but it is landing on PC in early access January 30th. That's all I've got for you today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like.
See what else we can get.
I hate Pokemon. No, Pokemon Legends ZA. This game has been hyped beyond belief. Like many other curious gamers out there, I wanted to Google what this game was. I've somehow gone my whole life without ever playing a Pokemon game. But that was about to change. In 1996, a Japanese game studio named Game Freak made the first ever Pokemon game. It was an instant hit, so they made another, and so many more. It was printing money. But these games were starting to blend together. For 3 decades, it was the same battles with the same menus using the same moves. Game Freak realized that people were getting tired of this formula, so in 2022 they made a spin-off, Legends Arceus, a game which had the freedom to be something unique, and it worked. In the first week, it sold 5.8 million. People wanted more Legends, and this new one even takes place in Lumios, which is inspired by Paris, not to mention it's the first Pokemon game to be released on Switch 2 for $70. This game had a lot to live up to. 8 months after the teaser trailer, we finally got to see it. Over 500,000 people tuned in worldwide to watch this. What was this game gonna look like? Absolute shit. This looked like a game from the PlayStation 2. Windows and walls were just images. NPCs were frozen in the road, and this whole city just looked dead. This is the most expensive Pokemon game ever, and before the game released, they already announced paid DLC, making this whole experience $100. I had to buy this shit. Before we actually get into the video, I just want to say only about 5% of you guys are actually...
I don't want to watch that. Hi, Polar Bear. How's your day going?
Folks, we have some breaking news here that I thought we would discuss right away, and that is the ongoing global RAM crisis, which, as expected, may indeed become a bigger problem for not just the short-term consumer parts department, but more so the broader enterprise space as well for consumer electronics, where big companies need this very crucial module for the products that they make. And so what are we expecting in 2 years? Well, new consoles with PlayStation 6 and the next-gen Xbox. And so we had this report from Insider Gaming, Tom Henderson writing this particular article where it does say RAM price increases could see next-gen console releases delayed. Insider Gaming has learned that the ongoing price increase in RAM due to the rise in AI could delay the next generation of console releases. Now, further down in the article, they do say, from what we understand, the situation has led console manufacturers to debate whether the next gen of consoles should be delayed from their intended 2027-2028 release window.
Yeah, the problem is that it's not like Game Freak's not capable of making a nice looking game. Their next game that's supposed to be like a Souls-like game looks really good. And it shows that it's not Game Freak that doesn't want to make it, but more Nintendo that doesn't want them to put that much effort into it because of the fact that they want these games to come out like every 2 years, every 3, like every other year they want a Pokemon game to come. So that's why.
So, with the hope that RAM manufacturers will be able to build out their infrastructure to produce more RAM, thereby allowing prices to drop. And there is still the ongoing issue that the consoles we have right now may go up in pricing. We had that one rumor from Tom over on their channel, Moore's Law is Dead, about how Sony has allegedly secured more RAM in the here and now in the short term to protect the current PlayStation 5 price tag, which had already gone up because there's so many sort of external factors at play that Sony has not really been able to control. It's been a very fascinating and difficult console generation, where PlayStation 5, we know in particular, launched during the COVID pandemic, and that has sort of baked in a 1 to 2 year delay for the console experience and the games that are made on that console. And there was a big supply issue early on with the machine. It really didn't take until 2 years where you could really comfortably buy it. 3 years, depending on how you want to phrase it, right? So there were some early bundles in 2022 that were in stock for pretty much a decent amount of time, but that's neither here nor there. The point is, this is a crazy story because, well, the thing is, we've been following on LTPS for a little bit now the early PlayStation 6 rumors, and I still feel very, like, I feel a lot of conviction in this idea that, like, the roadmap very much is 2027 holiday
unfortunately,
season.
the
That is,
Nintendo that
you know,
we grew up
can
with,
debate all day, every day about how short the console
like,
cycle
even back
may
then,
have
they were
felt,
evil.
or that it wasn't
That's
really
what I
hitting
tell
its
people. This is just Nintendo being Nintendo. Nintendo's always been evil. They've always been fucking the worst.
Right, or there's, you know, the games take forever to come out. We can debate that all day, every day, but the reality is it's 7 years, and so Sony was indeed very likely planning on shipping PlayStation 6 and potentially this new handheld not too far away, but close within that 2027 holiday window. And that's why
shit.
we're getting so many PlayStation 6 related rumors, because these things are very much in motion right now. In fact, the one thing I thought was like, okay, going into next year, which is only a week away, days away actually, 2026 is going to be the time where those rumors will ramp up in a very significant way, because dev kits will start going out. If they're not already at first-party studios right now, they will be very soon. And really, the floodgates will open when third parties have them, which would probably happen towards the back half of 2026. And then you'd have probably some sort of formal reveal of PlayStation 6, maybe the new handheld in early 2027. And then from there, it would be late 27 that they would launch. The crazy thing about this whole story, to sort of wrap it up here, is that the report came
Gotta
out.
get out of here, my
Everywhere
show
you
broke.
look, and sure, it's enthusiast circles, but everywhere you look, the general consensus does tend to be not a problem. We are totally fine with that, because that's the thing. PS5 has felt like a console that hasn't really been able to have its own identity. Like, we've been spending some time talking a lot about this, which is, you know, it sort of has that identity crisis. I oftentimes feel like I'm the only one that really enjoys the cycle in such a manner where it's like, I don't take it for granted that, like, the vast majority of games have 60 FPS. The quality of life has been a massive improvement for frame rate, no load times. I think there has been a ridiculous amount of games. First-party output can't reasonably be as fast as it was, and that's not a PlayStation problem. That's a video game industry problem, where 9-figure games take 6-7 years to make. There's been some studio issues with the live service output. PS5 has had such a identity crisis for how it appears as like a great console, a fantastic console. I think for some, we're still totally in that frame of mind of like, well, because of all these things, cool, let's just get another 1 or 2 additional years on top of what we thought might have been late 2027 for the console coming out. But
I am not ready for a new console.
The issue is going to be price. It's crazy to think that when you look at just like the retail side for consumer parts, it's the percentage increase on some of these modules is insane. It is ridiculously high, and so it's to a point where like economies of scale are not going to save the pricing on these components. So, and the thing is with PlayStation, Xbox, I mean, while we all kind of expect that Xbox is going down a different path at this point as far as the volume they're expecting for next gen, how many Xboxes they think they're going to sell, they won't be nearly as high volume as PlayStation based on the on-paper specs that we're hearing so far. But between the two of them, consoles still were always meant to be a high-volume, low-price box. I mean, that's why you can never do this sort of like build a PC, beat a PlayStation thing that PC YouTubers love to do, because they can't have
PC. I dabble with
scale
PC.
work in their favor. That has always been the benefit of consoles. So the weird push and pull here is that Sony, despite what we're expecting for the PS6 price tag, which will likely be even more than what PlayStation 5 costs right now, $550 USD here in the US for a disc console, PS5 Pro $700. I would have thought initially, back when PS5 Pro came out, that the plan would be phase that machine out. That way, for optics, it doesn't look, doesn't look weird when you have a new console come out that's better than PS5 Pro and it's priced less than $700, because ideally you want to release a console and subsidize it, so you're willing to lose money on it, but you're going to make all that back through subscription, MTX, game sales, accessories, things like that. It's still a very standard model that Sony to this day is deploying, because they have all these external factors like COVID and tariffs that they have to deal with. But even still, accounting for all that, you would have thought that PlayStation 6 might be in a $600-ish neighborhood, or at least I would love to think that might be the price tag it would be around. But now it's so hard to even say. The other weird thing about it is, though, is that the console business has been very
The next PlayStation has to be $499. It has to be $499, or else that console is going to be dead, or it's not going to sell as good. Will it sell? Will they be fine? Yeah, but they won't sell the way they want to.
It stays where it is. It's between 200 to 250 million users for the past 20, 30 years. That number doesn't really grow. There's always like this sort of glass ceiling on it. Eventually somebody hits it, and we can never really break past that. The console market doesn't grow. The thing is, these consoles have been getting more expensive. Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox. Again, Xbox in particular is a bit of an outlier now in that they're selling so poorly that, arguably right now you could say that there's a large portion of people that are maybe exiting the console marketplace, and Sony isn't necessarily replacing them at the rate that we would expect. But still benchmarking, let's say, to stick with PlayStation, PS5 console sales are still at the same pace that they were between PlayStation 4. It's only a few million behind. You would think nothing is actually going on. And that's with the console staying as high priced as it is, and in many cases, in most countries, have gone up in price over its life cycle, which is not typical for the console business. So it's still selling at the pace that it always has, which tells us more affluent buyers are paying for consoles. I mean, and the thing is too, with like the PC part space, with like GPUs in particular, like those prices haven't really come down in any sort of meaningful way. Like, it's just the sort of new normal that GPUs for even like mid-range ones are easily exceeding $500 something. It's something crazy. Like, I can't be exact here, but it's like off the top of our heads, we all know like these things are just sort of normalized now to where it's like, oh, that's just what those things cost. So my fear is that no matter when PlayStation 6 comes out, because then you got to think by the time we have 3 years of inflation going into 2028, late 28, we think, for holiday season, maybe 2029, it might be all fine and dandy to say that, yeah, we're cool with it, so PS5 has more room to breathe and it can, build out more of its own identity and have more games come out for strictly PlayStation 5. But, by the time we have 3-something years of inflation, it might be a new normal to think that PlayStation 6 will cost well over $600, maybe well over $700. I mean, economies of scale will not save that machine if a crucial component like RAM, GPUs, maybe CPUs eventually. I mean, this is it's crazy. We are in a wild west, and we've been in it for like 5 years, right? Like COVID happened, and now it's just one thing after another, and it has made everything so much more exponentially expensive than it was prior. And the other awful truth is that wages have not really gone up to the same degree, so you start making some concessions on what am I going to cut out of my life. And for some it seems like consoles might have been the case, but Sony right now is still selling PlayStation 5s at a very comparable rate to PlayStation 4, and it will be very interesting to see how this year plays out, especially with PlayStation 6 rumors. Tom Henderson in particular has always been very reliable as far as some access on the PlayStation side of things for the product roadmap and PlayStation 5 Pro. So we could see some pretty well-sourced articles probably coming out of Tom. We'll see what happens from Tom from Moore's Law is Dead on that side as well. But again, like if dev kits start getting out there, that's when you'll see even more of this stuff happen. It's just, what does that timeline look like now if there is a very real possibility that we can tack on an additional year for when we expect PlayStation 6. Anyway, that's it for this very unscripted blabbering. I'll see you all in my next video. You take it easy.
Nice. I am all for a delay. Straight up. Alright, let's watch one more video and then. What are my thoughts on the PS6? It's more than likely gonna get delayed.
The biggest fall-offs in gaming. That is what we're going to be talking about today, okay? And what do I mean by this? I mean, remember Skylanders? Remember how Skylanders literally ran everything for a minute? Like, Skylanders was over here, came up with one of the most genius business ideas I've ever heard, man. They take a character like Spyro, and y'all forget, bro, how big Spyro was, okay? Listen, man, they took Spyro, and they came up with an idea of selling people microtransactions for every single character in a game, and then they became collectibles, and all the kids just bought all of them because it was like toys, so parents just bought them regardless. And they were just printing money for a relatively pretty mediocre game, if we're being honest here, but it was just a pretty intuitive idea. And then they just milked it to a point where nobody wanted to play it anymore. Or maybe it's like Xbox, dude. Xbox went from being the de facto default console of the boys to, you have an Xbox, bro? Like, brother, dude, the console wars became cringe because Xbox is so uncompetitive with literally anything else in gaming that it's not fair to compare them. Okay, or like Halo. No, there's a whole thing that you could talk about Halo, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to be going through some of the biggest fall-offs in gaming, biggest fall-offs of developers, franchises, consoles, and I'm going to be ranking them on a tier list by how bad the fall-off is, okay? With all that out of the way, please consider like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 500,000 subscribers before the release of GTA 6. That is the goal, and I do believe we're going to be able to hit it with the support of you guys. Hit the bell icon to stay notified, and with all that out of the way, let's get into that video. Let's go. Fortnite. Brother, Fortnite did not fall off. If you want to make the argument that, like, Fortnite isn't as big, like really as it was when it originally came out, you can make that argument, but, like, brother, Fortnite is still getting concurrently, like, 1 million players a day. 2 million on the weekend, and in like big events they get like 5
Fortnite's gonna be.
Brother, can you really argue that Fortnite
I could
fell
have
off
kids
if it
and
just
their
became
kids
a
could have
staple of
grandkids.
gaming? Like, no,
Fortnite
I'm
will
not
still be
even
around.
kidding you. Like, Fortnite is now one of the main pillars of multiplayer gaming. That's how big it is. Year after year after year, it just consistently is around for everybody to play. Sorry, burp. But bro, if you really think about it, dude, like, Fortnite does deserve credit for being able to stand the test of time for over 8 years. And it has been 8 years since this game really was able to hit its stride with the Battle Royale, to the point that we kind of just take it for granted how crazy this is.
No.
The last time a game like this
Oh,
had staying
no.
power,
Oh,
I mean,
no.
we're really
What the
talking
fuck?
about, like, Minecraft. Minecraft didn't fall off. No, Minecraft has literally always been like this, bro. We stopped playing it for like a year, and then
What
it comes
hit
back
me?
for a 2-week phase, and then we all
How did he
re-download it,
shoot
and
two
then
of
it
them?
happens again and again and again, brother. I'm about to enter another 2-week phase in a second. Fortnite is a game that, like, how is this possible? Why is it literally every other month people say Fortnite fell off, but yet it's still on my feed? Brother, if it fell off, good. I don't have to see it anymore. But the fact that it's still around, brother, I don't think it fell off. I just think it's consistently around. Fortnite's trying to become the new Roblox. Do I think it'll ever get to that point? No. However, I think they make so much money off of like not even sponsors, like these collabs that they do. And first up, they don't get enough credit for like how groundbreaking the collabs were. I remember the original Thanos collab that they did for Infinity War, bro. That broke the internet for a second. Did Fortnite kind of fell off a little bit? I'm going to be honest with you. It had some tough times, but I would hardly say it fell off because I still see it so consistently on my feed that it just never leaves me. Even when I don't want to watch it, bro. I'll be watching like
Not
this
gonna make it,
brain
alright.
rot like Reddit story, like read over, and I'll be seeing some Fortnite gameplay in the bottom because the ADHD ridden children can't focus on anything unless they see, oh, Fortnite in the bottom. Tough times, but it didn't fall off. Sports games. I'm going to sew off Madden right here. Brother, a Madden game won Game of the Year. Y'all forget. Madden, I think it was Madden 2004 won Game of the Year. It did, you know, it was Madden 4 that won Game of the Year.
All right, I'm gonna get off. I'll be on tomorrow morning. I just wanted to try this new setup, see how it goes. I like it a lot. I hope you guys have a great night. And remember, you're pretty good.